Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Knights of Last Call. My name is Derek Melinda, and happy Liberation Day, everybody. Welcome. I was liberated yesterday from my job. Yes, that's right. My company decided to make substantial and permanent reductions in staffing, and as a result, myself and a good chunk of my coworkers received our severance packages and termination notices. So I'm free. Thanks. Anyways, yeah. So, but you know, we're here. We're streaming. We're talking about role-playing games. This is you know what else are we gonna do? Not to start us off on a sour note, but that is what is happening. So interestingly, you know, you said this is dystopian. The thing that voted, the patrons voted. It kind of maybe it's a joker's meme because my patrons, I told my patrons yesterday what had happened, and they were like, "Oh, Derek, you should do a 5e, like a review of the 2024 D&D release." And make that good YouTube money. And I said, the problem is they don't reduce it. They don't have it in PDF. And if you try to show the book, right, they'll come after you. They'll DMCA you. So, you know, it's like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I'm like, I don't know how to talk about 5e at all. So speaking of dystopian, Lance, who is a friend of mine who works at the same company, and it wasn't mentioned at all in the full company meeting this morning. Well, Lance, as far as I know, it's coming for everybody. As you saw from some of our friends who saw some leaked documents, it's coming sooner than later. I know that there was at least 2 people in my team, myself and another person who got let go, and I think a couple of people in another team. And yeah, I mean, apparently it was pretty broad across the company. So, but yeah, why would they mention that? I mean, they don't want people to leave just yet, you know. So, yeah. Any case, we are here today to talk about. EU says they thought they sorted the flip through thing out, still can't show WotC books. That sucks. I mean, they definitely like removed the copyright strikes from the people who showed the preview PDFs that WotC had sent them. But my understanding is still they do not want, you know, like when I do a first look on most of these books, I kind of just go through the PDF. And to be clear, I've never done that with a Wizards of the Coast product that's like active. But I did that once with a Paizo product, and I got yelled at by Paizo, and they never sent me another preview product ever again, or any product ever again. So I think it's just the bigger companies that don't want you flipping through the book. Companies like Paizo and Wizards of the Coast are legitimately concerned that someone will screenshot and screen cap every single page and not buy the book. Because somebody on stream went through they went through all 350 pages of the book, and you know, yes, that is what led. If you're a patron, you know the very infamous Smith video. If you're a patron and you have not seen the Smith review, this was after we got rebuked by Paizo. Smith did a review of a Paizo book, and he was like, "This is a book. It has pages and words. Those words are organized into sentences, paragraphs, and chapters. Sometimes there's art." It's like the best. I mean, it's just classic Smith. Damien says, "Here's half $2, law, story path, and all that." Well, you know, Damien, I have no excuse now because I have nothing but time on my hand. I have nothing but time on my hands. So I got to figure out something to do. I hope you land somewhere soon in another vocation. Shadowdark is pretty popular. Shadowdark is pretty popular, although, you know, I got to admit, I got to admit that I got to imagine the folks over at Arcane Library are like, shitting a brick because they've got 10,000 backers lined up for a series of books. And when this Kickstarter campaign started, those books probably had a minimal or zero tariff. and now they're going to have to pay 50% more. So unless they're going to go to all their backers who backed at 250 and say, actually, you owe us 400, I don't, or have like some outrageous shipping fee to cover the cost. I don't know. I don't know how this ends. I mean, I have, I don't even know how many I have. I'm just getting over to my Kickstarter. This is not including backer kit, because I don't want to go over to backer kit too. I have, maybe I should move this to window where I can actually see it. See what I'm waiting on here. Stuff that is probably, to be printed, I would assume. Well, starting off with what we're talking about today, the Tome of World Building. I have the PDF, but I'm getting physical copies of both. Their expected delivery is June 2025. So in the coming months, I paid $99 when I backed the Tome of World Building for 2 thick books. I imagine they're going to get destroyed. Dragontown and the Darkness Below from J.P. Couvert. Broken Empires. Root the Homeland expansion, a board game expansion. Root the role-playing game expansion. 13th Age print copy and extra stuff. Oath, the New Foundations, expected end of this year. That's a board game. Waiting on that. The Hunting of the Shark, 20 Years of Lone Shark Puzzle Hunts. That's a Gen Con thing, but expected. Physical. Mythic Bastion Land. And then, of course, DC 20, Shadow Dark. All those things. It's crazy. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So anyways, what's up, everybody? Yeah, they're just weird about the art and the lore and, the stuff that they don't want out there. And I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not a publisher. I don't know what's cool and kosher, and I don't want to pretend like I do, but yeah, it's gruff. Anyways, so the tip goals today are a bit more of kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing, but the fact of the matter is, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, for the going forward. And the last time I was without a job, I took a year off to go hike the Appalachian Trail. And when I came back, I was like, I'm not going to go to work for the man. I'm going to start my own business, and I'm going to live my dream, and I'm going to become a photographer, and I'm going to work with my buddy. And well, all those businesses failed. And then, COVID had something to do with it. And then I started a YouTube channel because I had a photography studio that I wasn't using, and I had no income for 3 years and had to live off my savings and my Magic the Gathering cards. And, but now my situation is a little different. This channel makes a little bit of money, mostly, almost entirely due to my Patreon. So I'm not completely fucked like I was before. And, I've always toyed around with the idea, of what would I do if I had an extra, 30 hours a week? Because let's be clear here, my full-time job, I probably put in 30 to 33 hours a week, right? I wasn't burning the midnight oil. I wasn't burning it on both ends there. I was getting my job done, unless I was really under the deadline. Most of the time I was probably working 6 to 7 hours a day. But that's still an extra 30 to 35 hours a week that I was, doing something else. And what could I use that time for now? Could I do extra streams? Would that be something people want? What is there something that I can do with the channel that I couldn't do before? Because the channel was just a fun secondary hobby thing that I just kind of did because I like RPGs and I like talking about them. And, I never intended this to be anything that I would make a living off of. But, yeah, so good stuff. Yeah, the photography studio that still has my sign on it. What is it? 3 years later, 4 years later? Ken says time to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. Ken, trust me, I'll be honest with you, Ken. I would do it. The only reason I'm not going to do it is because I have dogs, and they're older, and I don't want to take 5 or 6 months off away from them and be every minute with them is precious to me, and it's honestly really kept me from doing any extensive travel just because I love my dogs so much and I want to be there for them, and I like being with them, and they're too old. I couldn't take them on the trail with me or anything like that. But there was a joke that in our Patreon about a poll. Like I was like, what should we do? What should I do now that I don't have a job? And I was like, I should Appalachian Trail 2, Electric Boogaloo, and go to the Pacific Crest Trail. To be clear, this is all fairly new for me. This happened yesterday. I imagine it would have happened earlier in the week, but or maybe even earlier. But I think that they didn't want to do it on April Fool's Day, which I respect. But also, I was on bereavement because my father died. So, in the last 30 days, my father died. I lost my job. My hot water tank exploded. I had to take the foster dog to the ER vet to get its face stitched up. Times are tough. It's been a hell of a run. KC, well, hopefully things go out, hopefully things work out well for you. That sucks. Well, anyways, enough pity partying. Let's talk about role-playing games. So there we go. Boom, there it is. All right, so this, of course, is the infamous, the Tome of Adventure Design revised. And actually, so this is the original Tome of Adventure Design. Well, I'm sorry, there was an original Tome of Adventure Design. I don't know if I have it like right around. Oh, actually, I do. That's sick. So this is the original Tome of Adventure Design. And this was published from Matthew Finch back in 2009. So this was an oldie. I mean, this came out basically right the tail end of third edition. As fourth edition was kicking off, kind of as the beginning of the OSR, really. And I just love the back of this book. It's just like, it's obviously it's an inside joke to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's Friday night, 6 p.m. You haven't prepared an adventure and you still need to get to the store and buy snacks. The group is heading over to game in 2 hours. What do? Don't panic. And while I don't believe that you should be rolling mostly from this book at the table, I've found it to be more valuable as a inspiration generator during prep for games. And so that game, obviously that was published 15, 16 years ago. A couple years ago, they did a Kickstarter for a revised version of the Tome of Adventure Design. They really didn't add anything to it. They cleaned it up a little bit, in terms of its like some of the editing and formatting. And they were just republishing it. And the only thing they added in the revised version, by the way, I call this the Toad because it's the Tome of Adventure Design, TOAD. And I just find it to be one of the best. And I did a whole stream, I think, about this book and about the toolbox and the ultimate toolbox. And I think that those three books are among my favorite Oracle generator tables. And some people have different feels. Now, again, I want to stress this. This is not a game. I don't think that this is something that I'm going to be rolling during a session. It's a big, thick, heavy book. I use it more as an idea generator. But the only thing they added in the revised was this. They added on all the margins of all the pages. They added all this like just random words, just to kind of just to add some like just random. Hey, Rusting. Hey,
tips $10. Can't stick around, but will be eagerly watching the VOD. Thanks for all the amazing work you do, Derek. Smile.
Well, thank you, Scmage. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I'm glad you appreciate. I appreciate you appreciating me, and your tip is very, very much needed and thanked for. But thanks. I hopefully enjoy the VOD. This is truly a first look, by the way, because I love this book. This book's great, but they just started delivering their follow-up Kickstarter, which was 2 books, the Tome of World Building and the Namicon. So the Tome of World Building promised to be, basically what Tome of Adventure Design was, but for building out a world. And obviously that's a pretty cool thing. Now, for a lot of people, the go-to book for sort of random procedural world generation has been Worlds Without Number. And I like Worlds Without Number. I think it's a good book. But it's not to me, it's not Tome of Adventure Design. And so I think that is something to be considered. And I want to compare this. I want to see, does this book really do it all? Does this really help me generate ideas and put together a world and do it in a random way that is inspirational, that doesn't feel completely arbitrary and random and crazy, right? That's the problem with when some of these tables, they could be too crazy and too designed. Like Tome of Adventure Design is admittedly, I think, very, it talks about how you shouldn't take these things literally, right? So like if we go to, this is table 1A, which is the locations overview. This is from Tome of Adventure Design. And then let me, did I close that? Dang, I did close that. There we go. All right, I just wanted to grab something here real quick. Okay. This is our D&D dice roller. I don't know how well this can even be seen. So like if we go and we add a 100-sided die. All right. So let's roll that. All right. So we got a 74 and a 51 and a 74. Okay. So like if we had the octagonal, okay. The octagonal 54 or 51 globe. Interesting. I don't know how something could be octagonal and a globe. All right, so we're already kind of off to a rough start here. Of the back to 74 monkey. All right, and then we have 6. The Monkey Apprentice. So we have the octagonal globe of the Monkey Apprentice. This is some location. Now, should you literally be trying to think of like a monkey apprentice in a globe that is octagonal? No, but the idea is that it inspires you to come up with something. And a lot of times I don't feel, that I should be beholden to these results at all. In fact, a lot of times these things will come up with something completely random. Like I don't feel like I'm cheating if I have something and it's like I have the ancient, the ancient barracks of the blood and I get beast and I go, actually, I think blood assassin would be cooler. And it's like, I don't feel like I'm cheating because I rolled an 8. You're like, no, you rolled an 8. It has to be beast. It has to be the blood beast. So yes, Beowulf. Now, Beowulf, I fudge oracles as a form of prep. Okay? Does that make sense? I think if you're rolling an oracle to embrace the randomness as an outcome generator in a game, if you're just going to pick something, it's a little bit like, what are you doing anyways? But this is just, this is during prep. Now, again, I don't find this to be very useful while you're actually playing. But as a prep tool, it could be really, really powerful. So I want to see what we can get out of the Tome of World Building. So this PDF has come in. I've barely looked at it. So this is truly a first look. And I want to see what we have for it. Now, if we have time, we'll also follow up really quickly. There's not a lot to really follow up here. But the Nomicon is a name generator. It is a random name generator. And it's got sort of realistic inspired. Like they have a version here they call the Hellenica, which is kind of ancient medieval Greek-ish sounding. We have something they call Italican, which is loosely based on medieval Italian. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of real life naming components, along with some certain amounts of fantasy things. Now, my go-to, so let's take a look here. Like if we, as you can see, this book is just a lot of tables. But like let's go with something classic here. Let's go with an elf, right? Elven. All right, high elven masculine personal names. Roll any part 1 and any part 2 to construct a 2-part name. So I'm going to roll 2 D20. And I got a 7 and a 17. So A or AE. And then that's part 1. Or it could be La. So A, La, or it could be either of those. And then 17 is Lizabel, Marad, her. So maybe like, Amarad or Amarad. I think that's pretty cool. Aher, Ayer. I think that's pretty cool. So it's just a random name generator. Now, EU Arto wonders, how does it fare compared to Gary Gygax's Extraordinary Book of Names? So, Gary Gygax's Extraordinary Book of Names, which I don't know if I'll be able to find on my shelf quickly, has historically been my go-to. However, the problem with Gary Gygax's Extraordinary Book of Names is, for the most part, it is just names. It's not actually like phonetic, and I kind of like the phonetic part a little bit better. So overall, I think I tend to like this Namicon better, but we'll see. All right, the Tome of World Building by Matt Finch. By the way, we do have links in the description if you want to pick up the PDFs of these. You can use our link, our affiliate link. We get a couple bucks. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but we get like 50 cents or something. All right, so table of contents. We've got an introduction, how to use the book, talks about genres and approaches, and then we go into chapter 2, which is cosmic matters. Okay, so this is really not just a world creation. It's almost like a whole campaign creator. Questions to ask about deities, creator deities. Now, these aren't actually tables, apparently. These are like just more like to get you thinking. So this really seems like it's more about sitting down and maybe going through this procedurally. Beowulf says, "Could you zoom in a bit, please?" He's like, I want to be able to screenshot it so that I can copy it, which is what the Paizo fears. So we've got questions to ask. We have the nature of alignment linked cosmic forces. Again, that's all on one page, but we've got a table that says legendary books. I'm not sure why that's just randomly a table here, but it is. Arrival on this world and some reading material. All right, so the first 8 pages seem to be very high-level Pantheon type stuff. And then we get into chapter 3, which is the world. Now, continents. How many continents? Real world continents. There's a table of random continents. How to map the world, temperature zones, biomes, catastrophes. Now, here's the thing. Before we even get into this, generally speaking, I think all of this is so unnecessary. And I say that, and I'm not saying that, maybe, I'm sure we'll get into other stuff here, but I'm not going to lie to you. I've never created an entire world because I don't care. I just don't care. In fact, I'm even long before Dungeon World, draw maps, leave blanks. I mean, I'm a big believer that unless the era of like, you have to design an entire world and an entire ecosystem and temperature zones and biomes, I do not give a shit about any of that. Now, I know some people are just so, I don't even know how to describe it. They're just so fastidious that they want to, literally build this entire artificial world. I've just never been a big fan of that. I'm much more interested in building regions and areas and places where people like actually are going to explore and see things. In other words, drawing maps but leaving blanks and leave the rest of the world undescribed, and that's fine to me. But we have a table of catastrophes. Now, I do think this is important. And the reason why I think this is important is because, it's all hyperlinked. That's nice. Is because I think a good campaign world, and I'm assuming this is going to apply to, sword and sorcery, high fantasy. I don't know if they'll have a sci-fi element here, but I think where a lot of campaigns go wrong is they make the world too simple, and they make it too peaceful, and they make it not complicated enough. And I do think the very best fantasy worlds are all kind of sort of post-apocalyptic, not like maybe in the Mad Max sense, but in the sense that there was this great catastrophe. It explains why you have these ancient ruins and dungeons and places of danger, and why magic used to be more powerful, and why there's a reason to go into those ancient places, because there's lost secrets there from an age undreamed of. If you are at the peak of your civilization, it makes it very, and your everything is an organized national city state, and there's law and order prevalent. It doesn't leave a lot of room for adventure. All right. Chapter 4, broad brushstrokes, details for the other continents. All right. Political powers and naming major attributes on the far continents. How many cultures per continents? Death, religion, giant swamp. I don't know why this is just randomly here. This seems like a little bit laid out. Strangely. Higher technology city, legendary city ruled by a deity or demigod, legendary city ruled by a titan, legendary lich or undead creature, source of religious crusaders, pre-human empires, realms of machines and constructs, a society of necromancers, society of traffic. Okay, so these are just different like tables to roll on. Hey, I want kind of, I want the undead nation, or, the undead city-state. I want the realm of machines in my game, or the society of necromancers. So these are kind of tropey people. The bug empire, the fungus people, the meddlesome evil cults, the empire of the Fae. Okay. Tower cities. These are kind of oddly specific, but we'll take a look at some of these tables and get into it. Portals to other planes in existence. Oh, the land of the Minotaurs, but apparently no tables there. Rat creatures. If you're following along with our Torchbearer campaign, you know about the rat creatures. We do like a good rat creature. All right. And then we get into areas of vast areas of cold, vast deserts, vast jungles, worm creatures, assigning content to the home continent. Okay, so we're gonna have to really get in here and see how this is gonna be put together, because right now this seems like a disorganized mess to me. But Chapter 5 gets into the cultural basins of the home continent, and it breaks down profiles and shapes. Okay, this is not at all what I expected. Upriver cultural basins, defining borders, different types of empires. Wow. All right. Realms, religions, how many gods in the pantheon, building a pantheon, politics and government, history of the culture, oaths and sayings. This is very deep. Much deeper than I thought. Chapter 6 goes into countries. Now, here I'm going to put my I don't care hat on. There's nothing wrong with you if this is who you are. What you see on screen, I could care less about. I don't care about the population density. I don't care about food production. I don't care about Gygaxian naturalism. Like, am I going to put a frost giant inside of an airtight sealed container in my dungeon? No. But do I really worry about what the monsters eat? No, I don't care. So things like population density and food production, all this other stuff, this appeals to these like super, like if you like Axe, Adventure Conqueror King, or like that kind of mindset, this like super hyper simulationist mindset. but I am not that person. So, again, stuff about population per hex, realistic, early medieval, fantastic. I don't really care about that stuff. You might, though, so that's totally fine. Names for events and plagues. Chapter 7 goes into terrain and borders. And this is where we get into deserts. Okay, now this might be where I would start to pick it up. Because if I was going to design a cool desert and I needed some inspiration, then I might look to these tables and little bits of information. So it's possible that chapter 7 might be where I really start to get value out of this, especially if we assume we've got one for each of the major sort of terrain types. We got a desert, we got a forest, hills. Great. This is exactly what I wanted. Mountains, swamps, and marshes. All right. So basically the cool thing there. Chapter 8, Illuminarchies. I don't even know what the fuck that means, but all right. Is that a real word? Does anybody know if that's a real word? Anyways, criminal guilds, knighthoods, secret societies, leagues, foreign empires. So looks like this is some type of like secret societies, maybe. Chapter 9, legendary locations. Now, this is kind of what inspired this. We are doing right now on the Patreon for Knights of the Last Call, we're doing a monster creation contest. And it came about because one of our patrons, one of our illustrious patrons, Darth Gorlock, was like, holy crap, that book came out. I totally missed the Kickstarter. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, have you looked at it yet? And I said, no, not really. And I just quickly looked through it and I was like, oh, look, legendary location. And I rolled randomly on it. I got Abode of a Powerful Monster. And then I rolled Monster Abode and I got a the stronghold or labyrinth or ruins or something or cliffs of the Leech Colossus. And that was like what I rolled. And so we made it into a contest, and basically patrons can submit a monster that fits that fits that description. Leech Colossus, whatever that means to you. And then we have a 100-point grading scale. I'm going to grade it, and you can submit it for up to 4 different systems. You could do it for Pathfinder 2. You can do it for like OSR, Shadow Dark. You can do it for Dragonbane, and you can do it for Fabula Ultima. And we're going to pick a winner, and each category gets a $25 gift certificate. Of course, I made that plan before I lost my job, but I'll stick to it. So anyways, so this could be a pretty cool section here about creating a legendary location, abode of a powerful monster, a powerful artifact, a holy site, a ruin. So that could be kind of cool. Chapter 10, cities and settlements. So we got information about what to put into a city, what to put into a castle. Chapter 11 brings up deities and religions again. Here's our structure for pantheons, creator deities, all sorts of different types of deities, your creator deity, your lawgiver deity, your crafting deity. This should, again, I don't really care about making entire pantheons, but if you do, this could be pretty cool. Trickster deities, whole lots of stuff of deities. Mythology of your deities, a lot of stuff here about deities. Portfolios, worshipers. All right. Chapter 12, creating personalities. Good guy, religious leaders. Bad guy, religious leaders. Monarchs. Tribal chiefs. Mythical items and places. That could be pretty cool. I'm looking. Mythical clothing, mythical containers, thrones, instruments, jewelry, mythical places. That's pretty cool. Monstrous leaders for beasts, constructs, draconian, reptilian, eldritch horror. So that could be pretty sweet. All the different major types of monsters. And then chapter 15, useful facts. Water flow, difference between an inner sea and a great lake, river length, country and lake sizes. How that made it into the book, I have no idea. A checklist, an index, and then a list of tables. All right, so 344 pages. We're obviously not going to get through all of it because it is just fundamentally a long list of tables, but I think we could at least kind of look at it. Now, again, I want to point out that since they started doing the revised, they have this in the column or the the gutter of the page. they just have this endless list of just random ideas or random snippets. And it's just designed to just inspire you. You're flipping through the book, you're generating something, and then you see this, trial of an emperor, is written here. And you go, that sounds cool. Like, and that little nugget of a thing brings up this idea, and you decide to run with it. And that kicks off your whole, idea of what you're creating. And I think I've actually really think that this gutter list is actually really, really cool. All right. So let's see what they say here. How to use the book. The first way to use this book is as a walkthrough procedure for building a world, which is probably the way most readers will initially approach it. And especially the way most first-time world builders will begin. You could start at the beginning of the book and follow the process through. So it's designed to sort of take you step by step by step to creating essentially a functional or at least somewhat detailed world. The second way is to approach the book is to use it as an idea generator for selected parts of the world building process. And this is definitely how my reaction would be to use it. Dipping into the book for inspiration rather than following it as a procedural manual. Many people have map making or map designing skills that eclipse anything random tables can suggest for map making. Others are brilliant at creating prophecies and stories to fill in the background tapestry of a fantasy world. I would venture to say that anyone running a fantasy role-playing game can probably outdo the creative results from this book in at least one area of world design. Despite the fact that the book is presented as a procedural sequence, it's actually designed more for the experienced world builder who needs an inspiration tool from time to time. It's always easier to create something on the page than it is from nothing, and random generator tables are particularly good for this because you can see all the surrounding results on the table along with whatever results you actually roll with the dice, which is, I was literally just describing that is how I approach the Tome of Adventure Design, right? Shadram says, I had ChatGPT create a D20 rumor list for my sandbox, and now I have a bunch of adventures to figure out because the players want to investigate them. ChatGPT is probably the best tool ever created for GMs. Lugs, it probably is, in many ways. If for no other reason than if you buy this PDF, you can have ChatGPT, you can insert it as a project in ChatGPT, and you can have it, generate ideas for you through the ChatGPT process. But that being said, I do love rolling with, and here's the thing. I don't like PDFs. When I use my Tome of Adventure Design, I have the book. I love having the physical book. I love having my actual physical dice. I have a little notepad or notebook. Usually it's, graph paper or dotted paper. And I love just like jotting ideas down. And that to me is like, it's almost like a religious ceremony when I'm being into things. I think those are the times when I want to be the most unplugged, So I love the physical stuff, which is again why all these tariffs things are so horrible and so awful, because in some cases and in many cases it may be the death of the physical RPG product. Again, this book that we're looking at here is supposed to be physically delivered in a few months, and when they took the money for this, they did not account on the fact that they're going to have to pay 50% more for all their books when they arrive. So there you go. Shadram, that's exactly how I started with my sandbox. The Toad book, dice, a notebook, and lots of tea. And not to go off on a rant here, but I was really bemoaning just today how, there was a time when I learned how to play D&D, it was your books. There was no digital copies of anything, and you had to have your books with you. And there was something, they weren't indexable, they weren't searchable, they weren't hyperlinked. And I just remember sitting around my table with all these AD&D second edition books, just open to various pages. And I don't know, it's like, I don't know if you're old enough to remember like what it was like to like actually research stuff in the library, to be in the library, to be using the card catalog, going to the stacks, pulling out different books and sites and sources. It was inefficient and it was slow, and I know part of it is nostalgia, but I also think part of it was better in some way that I can't fully quite grasp, but it was better. All right. So If your objective is to start at the beginning, walkthrough, here's a brief walkthrough of the chapters with the objectives. Chapter 2 is a starting point where you resolve a few matters that are cosmic in nature. This is mostly about alignments and whether they will have an effect on your game. Okay, fair enough. Chapter 3 addresses continents and a past cataclysm, as well as a discussion about temperature zones. Okay. Chapter 4 is an odd chapter because a lot of the material is covered in greater detail everywhere. But as a procedural step, though, it's useful. Basically, this generates details about the other continent. Okay. So I guess their idea of the procedure is that you get a general idea of the other continents on the world. And then you're going to go deep diving into that one home continent. Now, I still think that that's probably too big of a scope for me, but I at least appreciate that that's the way that they're structuring it. Like, here, let's just get a rough outline of, of what Sean Chan looks like and what Shara looks like. And then, maybe even what the AO Waste looks like. And then let's really, or like Tremalking, and then let's really focus on Randland, right? Did Randland ever get a name? I grew up at a time and a place where it was just called Randland. Did ever? Sorry, I was talking about Wheel of Time for those of you who are not following with that. I have bemoaned many times on this channel that I hate PDFs. I know some people love PDFs, but I hate PDFs. I find it to be the worst of both worlds. Randland is what you always called it. Okay. Chapter 5 is our main course for creating the home continent. We'll create cultures with their borders to other cultures, those borders mostly being the wilderness areas of the world. The culture's political organizations are defined along with historical turning points, religions, and other cultural details. Chapter 6 focuses on countries. You will have information about your cultures, but this is where you can generate population numbers and a lot of other detail. Probably a little bit too much detail for me. Chapter 7 brings us back to the wilderness. You may have already dipped into this chapter when generating borders, but this lets you create themes and situations in the wilderness rather than in the civilizations. Chapter 8 addresses international groups and conspiracies. That's the Illuminarchies chapter. Chapter 9 and onward are basically reference chapters used to fill in different types of detail when you begin fleshing out the world. Chapter 9 is about legendary locations, a result that is called by many of the tables in preceding chapters. Chapter 10 is about cities and settlements, 11, deities and religions, 12 is about the big personalities you'll bring to life in the world. You might think of them as icons. Chapter 13 is about mythical places that are mostly located in the other planes of existence, but are needed for mythologies and the occasional dialed to 11 sort of location. Okay, so these are truly like, eye of the world type stuff. I keep referencing Wheel of Time a lot lately because my YouTube feed has just been absolutely filled with clips and snippets from the recent season that launched. I only watched season 1. I didn't watch season 2 at all, and I haven't watched season 3 at all. But now that I have plenty of time on my hands, maybe I will. And it's on Amazon, and I have Amazon. It's the only thing I have is Amazon. Chapter 15 contains various useful facts that didn't fit in the rest of this book. All right. So it talks about genres and approaches, just giving you more information here about heavy metal fantasy, sword and sorcery fantasy, grim and gritty fantasy, mentions Black Company by Glenn Cook. So what do we got here? We've got sword and sorcery, pulp fantasy fiction in which the protagonists may be anti-heroes, in which there may be science fiction elements blended in with your fantasy. Strange and varied cultures. Science fiction elements aren't required, but don't shy away from them. Heavy metal is fantasy died up to 11. Lord of the Rings, which is virtually the definition of high fantasy, is also very much in line with the heavy metal ethos. Prophecies, everything strange is bigger than life. Lots of wilderness. This follows the idea that life is filled with mystery. It's reflected in the wilderness. Only a small portion of the world is truly civilized, and those areas are probably separated from it by wild lands. Much has been lost, and much has been forgotten. It's interesting that they call that heavy metal. I guess, you know what? In my mind, heavy metal is what I would call points of light, right? That's usually the term that we kind of talk about, points of light. But grim and gritty, this is our, Game of Thrones, Black Company. It's more of a realistic kind of fantasy. And then, money and power are the driving forces. Poverty is rampant, maybe slavery and prostitution, the sort of real world gritty type stuff. And then high fantasy is not the same as high magic. It's fantasy, but in which the forces of good are quite powerful, but they are often opposed by even stronger forces of evil. Science fiction elements are very rare in this type of fantasy fiction. In general, prophecies are common in high fantasy fiction, and there's some sort of cosmic plan. Emphasizing religion and the Fae, there is a plan. So, first poll of the stream: if you were creating your ideal fantasy world, would it be sword and sorcery? Would it be what they are calling heavy metal? Would it be grim and gritty? Or would it be high fantasy? All right, let's see what folks say. Meanwhile, let's see here. So heavy metal is fantasy dialed up to 11 in a world where there are many unexplained and unexplainable mysteries about the nature of reality. Other than the fact that science fiction elements aren't necessarily out of place in this sort of world, it's almost a subgenre of high fantasy in which the world is wilder and the villains more evil. Lord of the Rings may also be very much in line. So it's all about prophecies. It's all about, everything strange is bigger than life. Lots of wilderness. It's this sort of, look, I didn't make these terms. They did. You know what? Ethan, I only recently saw that thing, the Grim Bright, the Noble Dark, and I thought it was excellent. Has everybody seen this? Let me see if I can find it real quick. I thought that I only recently found that. Maybe in the last couple months. Yeah, it's called the Setting Alignment Chart. That's what it's called. I saw it on Reddit. I don't know who it's. I don't actually know who it is responsible for, or who is responsible for it, I should say. Okay, so it's a setting alignment chart. It's from tjtrewin.com. I don't know if they created it, but I thought it was really interesting. All right, so on the bottom, you have the character's ability to have agency and impact, which I think is just a fantastic way of categorizing a game. And so in that respect, the game can be grim, neutral, or noble. And then on the y-axis, you have the optimism and the opportunity. And this is where it can be dark, neutral, or bright. So if a character has a lot of ability to make a big impact, then your game is noble in nature. And if, individual characters probably don't make a difference and never will, then it is a grim world. On the other hand, if it is a world of hope and optimism and, this sort of, clinging to a brighter future, then it is bright. And obviously dark is, a world with very little opportunity and very little optimism. And thus, we are mostly all familiar with grimdark, a despair-filled place with unending harsh realities and moral decay where people hopelessly struggle to survive. So it's kind of like, everything sucks and your character really can't change that. You might be able to survive for a while. You might be able to save one person, but you're never going to change the world. Now, contrast that with noble dark, right? So Shadram says, so real life. Yeah, I think real life is probably neutral dark, honestly. Depends on where you live, I suppose, and what your view of the current world situation is. But I probably would say you're more neutral dark, which is that Characters face everyday challenges mixed with hope and despair in a morally ambiguous and difficult world. That's kind of what I would say real life is mostly like. You know, I would think that we would all aspire, you know, to something better, but that is the way it works. So we have grimdark, but what about some of the opposites? So let's take a look at what is grim bright. So grim means that your character really can't make that big of a difference, right? And they can't make that big of a change, but it is a world of opportunity. So with great effort, resilient characters cling to glimmers of hope amidst the pervasive darkness of the world. So, you know, this is idea that, you know, this is really focusing on heroes who are true heroes in the truest sense of the world, or, you know, truest sense of the word. They are good, and they are trying their hardest against a world, right, which is just out to get them in a world, you know, in a sense, which I think is kind of interesting. And then obviously on Noble Bright, heroic characters make meaningful, impactful, and long-lasting changes in an uplifting and idealistic world. And I think a lot of D&D campaigns, like, you know, maybe Forgotten Realms and stuff like that, tend to lean over into this area, and this can be kind of boring in a certain sense, because it's like, well, everybody's, you know, everything's so nice and helpful and hopeful. It's kind of, you know, interesting. So we also have Noble Dark here. Grand, heroic struggles and difficult choices that have a huge impact in a morally complex world. Shadram says, is Star Trek Noble Bright? Yes, Shadram, I do think Star Trek is Noble Bright. I do think Star Trek is Noble Bright. And I would say that, like, at least the original series of Star Wars is grim bright. Right? So, you know, you have this rebellion, you have Luke Skywalker, you know, you have characters that are these pinpoints of light glimmering in a otherwise dark world, but, you know, they fight the good fight. And, you know, it's stacked against them. The situation is grim, but you have these incredibly bright, heroic characters, right, that stand out. Whereas in grim dark, the world is grim, but the characters themselves aren't really the shining beacons of heroism and nobility. They are, you know, they're kind of scum and scoundrels too. So I think that's kind of interesting. Anyways, I saw this months ago, and I think it's fantastic for anybody who wants it. So let's see what the poll says. 43% of you voted for sword and sorcery. 25% voted for high fantasy, 17% heavy metal, and 14% grim and gritty. That's an interesting breakdown. Hey, what's up, Pumpkin? Listening behind, I just listened to the entire Wheel of Time series last year and can't believe I never noticed there wasn't actually a name for the area that the book takes place. They don't give it a name. I think sometimes they call it the Westlands, but I don't know that that's like what they actually ever call it. But Sean says, modern D&D needs more Conan. I mean, that's certainly what inspired D&D, right? But that's where Dragonlance kind of took the game and sort of, if you will, lifted it out of those sword and sorcery roots and put it firmly into a more kind of noble type situation, you know? Like Dragonlance, in my opinion, is Noble Dark. At least the original Dragonlance series, right? Because in the original Dragonlance series, you know, it's called the Age of Despair. But the heroes of the Lance show up, spoiler alert, and they revive they bring back the worship of the good gods. They fight back the dragon armies. They defeat Techesis and the Draconian armies, right? They literally change the entire course and fate of the world in these grand heroic struggles. And, you know, that is what's going on. Anyways, very interesting way of discussing it. Grim Bright will be the name of my new heavy metal band. It's a good name. Grim Bright sounds like the name of a Heroes of the Storm character. All right, moving back. So it talks about that, which is cool. So here is interesting. They have a discussion here about high magic versus low magic. I'm going to read this because I think it's interesting. There's been a lot of discussion over the years about low magic versus high magic, which I suspect dates back all the way to the second edition of Dungeons & Dragons, when the Forgotten Realms began to replace Greyhawk as the default setting for Dungeons & Dragons. The Forgotten Realms is a relatively high magic world where magic simply stands in for a lot of modern technology. I agree. There's the sense that any threat to civilization can be addressed by a wizard establishing contact by the magical equivalent of a telephone and recruiting the help from world-spanning organizations. Of course, evil has similar magical resources, so it's not a matter of difference in power, it's more a matter of communication and coordination. The Forgotten Realms, at least in later iterations, is a world where threats are generally addressed with a lot of coordinated worldwide responses. Greyhawk, by contrast, has a much more medieval feel. The countries are relatively isolated, and there's the feel that magical communication is extremely rare. The idea of a coordinated international response to a world-spanning threat in Greyhawk is laughable. It's worthy of note that the Forgotten Realms is probably a much better extrapolation of what would happen with the D&D rules, and it would be difficult to explain why the world of Greyhawk does not have the same kind of communication and coordination, given that AD&D is quite the high magic game. Nevertheless, as a world setting, it's my opinion that the world of Greyhawk benefits from the fact that Gary Gygax did not extrapolate the underlying rules of the game into the world's setting. For whatever reason, the high magic level of the game doesn't creep into the feel of the world setting, and the world setting tends to benefit from that. And, this is kind of counter-purpose to an idea that myself and Ben espouse, right, which is like system is setting. And this is where you get to the idea of like, well, if the game system is X, then the setting should be X and should derive from that. And they're basically saying here that, AD&D is high magic, and Forgotten Realms is the logical conclusion of that. And Gary Gygax kind of ignored that, even though the magic in AD&D is very powerful. The tables in this book have the potential to be relatively high magic. Various interesting types of magic are proposed as the cause of many threats, opportunities, and bits of history. However, even in a low magic world, magic at the level of politics and nations would have a significant effect. The real distinction between low magic and high magic in a game comes from the rules being used. If magic items are common and spellcasters are common, the rules, if extrapolated, will suggest that the world should be high magic. So, the solution is either 1, pick a rule set which supports a low magic world, or 2, come up with a reason why a plentitude of wizards and magic items doesn't manage to transform medieval level communications and lack of international cooperation into a more modern feeling world. The first level to this answer is just, it doesn't. Since we're not novelists writing books, there doesn't need to be consistency at all levels. It's enough to just say that distrust and secrecy kept cooperation and communication from reaching modern levels. And in fact, Gary Gygax was quite clear that wizards are very secretive. He just didn't give a good reason for it. A second level to the answer is that there's a slowly accumulating risk to the everyday use of magic. A player character wizard isn't using enough magic to suffer the risk, but a city wizard casting multiple spells per day, day in and day out, would begin to erode from the unnatural nature of the activity. This kind of explanation, which doesn't interfere with the rules, usually works like a charm and has the added benefit of adding a bit of a Cthulhu-esque vibe to the world, plus an explanation as to why a player character wizard can't just pick up a lot of extra cash on the side by casting spells for people. So, that is a very interesting idea as well. Beowulf has a lot to say. He says, low magic for the win, or rather, pervasive, low-powered, subtle magic with super rare, powerful magic. Well, Beowulf, Greyhawk is defined by its, the Council of, what's it called? The Council of 12 or something? Which is literally a circle of mages that kind of like rules over everything, Mordenkainen and all those people, right? So, and, going against the rise of Vecna and all that other stuff, which is kind of like the globe spanning secret war between Vecna and Mordenkainen. So, wizards kind of still rule the day. Omnischateau, thank you for your ever increasingly valuable $30 Canadian. It's funny. when we first started this channel, I remember when the super chats would come in from Canada and it was like this massive drop in value. And now it's like almost equivalent. The Canadian dollar is like so much stronger against the US dollar. Thank you. Can't tariff super chats, at least not yet. So thank you, Omniscient Toad. I appreciate it. All right. Cosmic Matters. This book makes two assumptions about the cosmos and the multiverse. Look at that art. The multiverse is very complex, and the multiverse is not well understood by people in the material plane of existence because communications from deities are extremely cryptic, aka basic RPG 101 stuff. So this is less tables and more, remember, they talk about how this is a procedural element for you creating your world. And these are just asking you questions that you should decide when you start going through your world creation process. Is there a hierarchy of gods and forces in the multiverse? Do you want linked to alignment? Do you want a creator deity? Do you want deities that cannot be worshipped by mortals? Or do you want ordinary deities with whom mortals interact? Or do the deities reside in the material plane of existence? Or do they exist outside of that? And just, so not really tables here, but just talking about the process of this. Now, I'm curious. I'm going to do a poll because I don't know how many people are here and how many people care, how many people aren't Russian bots. I'm curious, how many people do you care about creating your own pantheon of gods / religion? All right. Got three options. Yes, no, somewhat, but not enough to actually do it. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been playing D&D for 32 years, 33 years. In my life, I think I have created one pantheon, like from scratch. That was it. And yeah, and most of the time I just don't care. But I'm also very uninterested. Like here, you want to hear my hot take? All right, here's my hot take. If I could get rid of people's obsession with the cleric and replace it with a white mage, I would. I don't like in the old school concept of like the role of the cleric, I don't mind it, but like I hate the idea of the cleric. I hate like the divine casting. So I just, I like. So Dan says, what's a white mage? I don't know if you're joking or not. A white mage is basically just that. It's the idea that magic is magic, and like the type of spells that we traditionally can associate with clerics, healing, protection, are just wizard spells. But instead of being a wizard who's focused on destructive spells, you're focused on the healing spells, protective spells, usually associated with Final Fantasy. So that is my thing. Damien says, I voted yes, but it's more I wanna, but it's hard. Derek says, I love making pantheons, but most pantheons that are published are so over-engineered, it's ridiculous. Beowulf says, I like one creator god who is mostly forgotten, and then tons of lesser gods that are really just spirits of nature that the ideas have come to worship. Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, by the way, I'm going to end the poll, but it is basically evenly split. I mean, it's like 33, 33, 33, 33, basically. I mean, somewhat, but not enough to do it wins. If I have to be completely honest with you, my favorite pantheon in fantasy is, you ready for it? Somebody guess. Somebody guess. Beowulf, correct. Tolkien. Yeah, Tolkien. Because, you have this idea of, number one, I mean, look at some of the biggest fantasy series of all time. Wheel of Time. there's the creator, right? And there's the dark one. And, you know, people, you know, obviously draw strength from the evil dark one in the form of the true power. But there's no pantheon. And people, like, while they will, like, worship the creator, there's no, like, order. There's no religious orders in, you know, there's no religious orders in Wheel of Time, nor is there in Tolkien. You know, Eru Iluvatar created the Valar, and a lot of people say, oh, like the Valar are like the gods, but they're not. The Valar are, you know, they're not omniscient. They're not omnipotent. They essentially reside outside of heaven. I mean, they have great power and stuff, but they are distant. You can't, like, worship them for spells. Like, that's just not the way Tolkien's world works. You know, I find that to be far more interesting than, you know, I don't know, like 1-800 dial a god and I'm getting random energy beamed down to me from the heavens. I don't know. I just find the whole divine spellcasting component of D&D to be, like, and like most traditional RPGs, horrible and boring, and I don't like it, like, at all. So that's my super hot take, which is that I hate divine casting. Like, I think if you're going to have religion, it's fine, but it should be, you know, more of like, you know, its own thing. I don't think it should necessarily be tied to magic. Oh, you know what's another world that I don't like. For example, I think Game of Thrones has a very interesting religion, right? You have the Faith of the Seven, which, by the way, isn't actually 7 gods. It's one god. It's a monotheistic religion, but it's, you know, it's the idea of one god, 7 faces, which is, you know, the father, the mother, the smith, the crone, the maid, the warrior, the stranger, the crone, I think is all of them. Anyways, it's a monotheistic religion. One god, 7 faces. And, but they're, you know, they don't have magical powers. And then you have people like the Red Priestess, Melisandre, and the Priestess of the Red God. And the idea there is, like, yeah, they're worshiping this unknown deity, but they also have magical powers, but it's not entirely clear that is really coming from the god or not. And it's like, it's not really sure where magic comes from. It's just like people, you know, they have their faith, but it's kind of independent from their magic ability. But yeah. And Derek, I also agree with that. You know, when there's so many gods that no specific god has enough spotlight to be important in the setting. I mean, it's like, what are you the god of? You know, I'm the god of ripe fruits. You know, I'm the god of wheat, but only when it's in the field. Once it's harvested, you know, then it becomes grain, and that's a different deity. And that's also different from the deity of bread, you know? So I don't like that. So to that end, you know, is there a creator deity responsible for the world? Yeah, I like that. You know, lesser creator deities who create worlds. This creates 2 classes of deity, those who create worlds and those who don't. It's not a distinction that makes sense. Deities that cannot be worshipped by mortals. I'm a big fan of that. Ordinary deities with whom mortals interact. Don't like that. Yeah. Removing this category of deities can create an interesting game, but it will drastically alter the way that most fantasy role-playing games operate. And then this is basically kind of like very Valar-esque, Greek-esque, you know? So Shadram has the hot take. Do we all agree that Pathfinder's Pantheon is the world's worst? Do we really need 200 gods? I mean, Pathfinder is kind of defined at this point, right? By having just infinite of everything. 500 weapons, 300 suits of armor, 200 different shields, hundreds of different ancestries, hundreds of different gods and goddesses, you know, dozens and dozens of classes, you know. What's up, GM Scott? Good to see you, buddy. So, cosmic forces are a weird concept. We had our first random table in the book the nature of the cosmic forces. This is the idea of like something that doesn't necessarily have like what is driving this power. Cosmic forces are a weird enough concept that some sort of analogy is needed to explain them to yourself and to your players. They might be mindless. They might think and strategize like a person would, but they might operate like storms or weather patterns. So like, what are these people? Like, are they basically just like, humans, but maybe super intelligent? Or are they like, is it just like an instinctual being that operates purely off of its mindless nature, Or is it like a weather pattern where it responds to shifts and changing? Now, obviously, the human analog is pretty defined. We just think of gods as being like, I don't know, big people in toga robes. But I like the idea of these concepts of treating your cosmic forces like a weather pattern or like a mindless instinctual force. It's kind of a cool way of thinking about it. It's a bit like how the kami work in some ways in like Legend of the Five Rings. I don't know why they have a legendary book generator here, but they do. So there you go. Where is the book? All right, let's roll. I wish I had all my dice right here and there. I just don't. Oh, here we go. It's just easier than, Gotta get my dice out. All right, here we go. So the book of what is it? What's the name of the book? The first word, first word, first part, second word, second part. Okay, so we got our D100 coming in hot. Here we go. There we go. Okay, we've got 28. We've got the 28. So we've got the SWA. It's a very strange name. The Swatanic sagas, and they are located in the holy citadel of Tar Don. All right, the holy citadel of Tar Don. And even as I roll that, see, Tar Don, that's okay, but I think I prefer like Tar Hara. I think that sounds cooler, or like Tar Gatu. Or Tarhesh. Tarhesh sounds really cool. So the holy citadel of Tarhesh. That's pretty cool. The holy citadel of Tada. Do I have this? Thank you. Now, I know this is strange, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. Stuff like this is way more useful and way more interesting and way more fun for me as a game master than any Lost Omens book ever made, or any book of feats, or any book of monsters. It just is. I don't know. For me, this is what it means to be a game master, to be a creator of ideas and worlds. And I don't know. I just find this process far more entertaining than just reading about somebody else's fan fiction about a fake world. We've got stranger things than books. What if instead we have the speaking Colossus of Jadaal. I don't like that. Jahara. There we go. The speaking Colossus of Jahara. Now, the speaking statue, or the speaking Colossus of Jahgatu, or Jahara, Jadan. That's pretty cool. Shaka, when the walls fell. And then they talk about stuff that you might want to read for some reason. Sometimes maybe they feel like they're filling in the space here a little bit, but okay. So that was chapter 2. A little weird, but kind of interesting. We're thinking about the very cosmetic, elements of our game. And then we get into the world itself, and we've got description of all the the equivalent hexes of Europe, Africa, Australia, Asia. Ethan says, does anyone know if this book has a good index of all the included tables? I believe it does, Ethan. If we go all the way to the back of the bottom of the book, we have the lists of tables. This is every table in the book. And in the PDF, they are all indexed. So, for example, I'm like, I need a reptilian leader. All right. We've got, do I have a D8? I do have a D8. It's a giant lizard with great magical powers. This has a lot of crossover with dragons and dinosaurs, but it might have multiple legs or other features that aren't connected with dragons or dinosaurs. But it's funny, it says great lizard. My first thought was a giant serpent. So even though it's next door to it, I kind of like that idea too, like some sort of magical snake naga person. I don't know why, but that reminds me of a kind of mini campaign of Monster Hearts I ran up at my local game store. And one of the Monster Hearts playbooks was the snake folk person. Let me see if I can find it. Monster Hearts serpent playbook. Aha, we got it. Excellent. We're going way off. I mean, I don't have a job anymore, so we can just take this as deep as we want, folks. We can just go all day. All right, here we go. Nice. Were they throwing hissy fits? So this is the Serpentine. This is a playbook. It says, in ancient days, look at this. Oh, look. Wait, shocking. It's a PDF and it sucks. Wow. I'm shook. In ancient days, your family held dominion over this world. They were powerful, deadly, and wise. At least that's what they tell you. But all you've ever seen is empty faith and crumbling dreams. You just want to live your life like any other kid, but they have bigger plans for you. They say that there will come a day when the serpent rules once more, that once again they will swap secrets with powerful allies and venom with powerful enemies. But they need your help first. After all, what is family for? Anyways, the idea was that, like, like the serpent people, they look like ordinary people, but they're actually serpent people. And like his oh, GM Scott, buddy.
GM Scott tipped $250 to help pay the ISP for the next few months, or groceries, or a few board feet of S4S lumber, or whatever. Maybe this is a pre-order of Shadow Deep.
GM Scott, thank you very, very, very much, buddy. I owe you a drink at Origins for sure. Thank you so much, GM Scott. It's funny that you were mentioning that, GM Scott, because I was actually looking at lumber prices today and just calculating how much a board foot of walnut is right now, and it's pretty expensive. No, GM Scott, that is awesome. It's incredibly helpful. I mean, again, I don't know what my outcome is going to be. But I do know that if I want to try to, do something with this channel, maybe make a game or make a Shadow Deep project or just do something, I'm going to be able to do it because of people like you, people like our patrons who are just willing to support me. And we've always been a community that looks out for each other. Not just me as the creator of the channel, but we've had people in our community who have needed help, needed outreach, and the community has always rallied around people in need, and that makes me very proud. And thank you, Scott, for your extremely generous donation, one of many that you've given over the years. And but I appreciate your friendship and your camaraderie far more than your financial donation. So thank you, Scott, and I appreciate you being here. And thank you so very much. It'll definitely go to a good end because it's going to be rough. I mean, even if I wanted to just turn around and get a job tomorrow, I mean, it's going to be rough out there because there's a lot of people going to be getting laid off who have already been laid off, especially in my field. AI is coming for my field pretty hard, and it's going to be a rough go out there. So thank you, Scott. I appreciate you so much. And again, definitely a drink or a flight or two on me at Origins. I really appreciate it, Scott. Thank you so very much. Yes, GM Scott the GOAT for sure. For sure. You don't have a job anymore. No, Dan. I was laid off yesterday, along with a number of people from my company. The first of several waves as they are downsizing. My company did significant work with federal government and contracts and grants there within. And obviously those have been severely curtailed and the future prospects don't look particularly good. So the company is making cuts in areas that they feel they can. And my role was viewed as extraneous and was eliminated. And so as of yesterday, they let me go. So, yeah. So anyways, just this. Anyways, this is the Serpentine. Thank you, Scott. And by the way, because I know everybody loves and hates Monster Hearts, here's your sex move. When you have sex with someone, they become part of the falling dynasty and subject to the move's mechanics. Anyways, so that's the Serpentine. That's our reptilian leader. But yes, in their Monster Hearts mini campaign, the character who was the Serpentine, he just wanted to be an ordinary kid, but like his grandfather like secretly like ran the town. He was like the mayor of the town, and he was always trying to like make him into like this great military leader. Kind of had like a John Connor kind of vibe to him, and he's like, I just want to be an ordinary kid. But his like grandfather was like, no, you are the heir of an ancient lineage that goes back to 1,000 years to the beginning of civilization in ancient Mesopotamia. And you will be, and he was a jerk.
Wojo tipped $5. Converting some of these streams to videos could definitely get more engagement. It took me quite a while to see there was a live tab.
Yeah, Wojo, we get that all the time, where people will be like, oh, you know, like I'll see comments on videos and they're like, it's a shame that you guys don't make videos anymore. Like, it's a shame you guys closed your channel down. I haven't seen you guys post in like over a year or two. And I'm like, there's 1,000+ hours of content that you've missed. And they're like, oh shit. That live tab was like the word, that was like the beginning of the end for us. Thank you, Wojo. All right. I'm getting all arrived. All right. So creating continents. So how many continents? Well, we got a roll die right here. You have 2 major continents connected by a chain or sea of large islands. There are 1d3 plus 1 other continents separated from the area by ocean. Now I don't want to like make a big deal about this because I do think that this is really cool, to be clear. And I think it's interesting. However, create me a hex-based fantasy world map. Include several continents and other geographical areas with a diversity of terrain. Now, the thing is that this is where, admittedly, ChatGPT can be very, very powerful. And some of the new image stuff that they're doing can be pretty powerful as well. It's not perfect, but again, this channel is all about trying to help you, make better games, and so we'll let ChatGPT do its thing. The new image creator does take a little bit longer than it used to, but we'll see what it came up with instead. Weirder continents. Here's if you want something really, really strange, like a continent floating in the air, continents separated by magical barriers or gates. So talk about point crawls, how to map the world, how to do hexes, linear scale, a square grid. So a lot of information here. I mean, facts about hexes, the apothegm, the in radius. I mean, this is a little bit, I guess it's nice to know, but who knows, how useful this really is. So hold on a second. You love it. So let me show you this real quick. So here we can see, create me a hex-based fantasy world map, include several continents and other geographical areas with a diversity of terrain. And this is what ChatGPT came up with. Is it perfect? No. Is it pretty good? Yeah. I mean, could I use this for, I don't know, multiple years of gaming? Probably. I mean, obviously, there's no real scale to this, and we'd have to kind of consider that. But, obviously, if these are supposed to be continents, the scale here might be significant and fairly large. But, it's doable. I mean, it's definitely a good start, Ken. I would agree with that. EUR just says weird inland lakes. Yeah, like some of the waterways are a little wonky and a little strange. But I'm just saying, like, some of the AI stuff is pretty good. Yeah, the rivers, the rivers are not that great. Now, see, Beowulf says, every time I see a game with lots of continents floating in the air or other crazy over-the-top fantasy stuff, it just says to me, our world is shallow and boring with no cultural depth. When I see a game world with floating cities and continents and stuff in the air, I think, wow, this is so cool, and this is where I want to play my game. And I'm like, oh, this is great. It's full of pageantry, and I can avoid all the cultural depth and political drama, and I can get to cool shit like adventuring and doing badass magical stuff, and I'm here for it. Yeah, Nin, I used GPT a lot at work as well, or I did. You love cotton candy, I love steak. I don't know, buddy. I do enjoy me a nice cut of beef. But I don't know that that's a fair comparison, okay? Cotton steak, that's what I want. All right. So this talks about, and to be clear, let me be completely clear here. This is shit that I don't care about. Where's the equator, subpolar zones, boreal zones, the life, I don't care about any of this. I mean, I get it. Like if this is talking about, like, if you really wanted to build a functional, sensible world, talking about using the number of hexes on your map and how many hexes should be between the equator and the pole and all this other stuff. Catastrophes, love it. Most fantasy gaming worlds have suffered a recent global or regional catastrophes, and there are several reasons for this trope, because it creates that sort of, medieval feel because of the Roman collapse, So we got all sorts of tables here. Alien action or planar action, depending on what feel you want to go to. Astrological disaster, divine action. Obviously, there's so many different analogs to this in various games over the years. And here we have all sorts of different tables for why they... Who are the aliens? What did they do? Why did they come here? What was their objective? Why did they fail? How did they destroy the world? What about an astronomical disaster? What about a divine disaster? Just tons of different things here. Hey, look, it's the spell plague. Two material planes of existence suddenly begin to overlap. Literally a spell plague from 4th edition Forgotten Realms. The ethereal plane begins to overlap with the material plane. That's kind of cool. I like this one. This is one, I don't know. An elemental plane begins to overlap more strongly than normal with the material plane. Like, what if you had a normal world, right? And then the elemental plane of air, for some odd reason, began to merge with the material plane. And obviously, like, whole civilizations were lost. And what was left was this world of floating landbergs and, just like a floating rock city, floating rock masses throughout the air, sort of a mix of material, prime material plus the plane of air. That's pretty cool. It kind of actually sounds a bit like the Fabula Ultima game that we created, the world that we created, which is the idea of a shattered world. And like the world didn't blow up, it just like broke apart. And so you can imagine from the surface of the world all the way down to the core of the world, now it's just like this like floating, roughly spherical mass of different land masses and stuff like that. Some of which are, nation sized, and others which are only a few square miles. Could be real world disaster, could be warfare. So chapter 3 kind of breaks down the basics of your campaign world. All right. Chapter 4. Now this is where we're going to this is a good point. I mean, this, we're not even rolling it. We're not even using the table, and we're just coming up with ideas, and we're just, talking about it. Bob, I mean, this is kind of why I was talking about why this is silly, because, so many people build these huge worlds and nobody plays in it and doesn't actually use it, and that's why I say, like, I think it's more of a self-indulgent thing for the game master, but also there was a time and a place where people would play in a campaign world for like 10 years or 20 years. And, that's a time when we're far away from that. I mean, Smith is the king and the master of that. He is the king and the master of that. I feel like with regards to world building, if my players are never going to care about it, then neither should I. And Tyrant King, I tend to agree, which is why I've gotten a lot of heavy use out of collaborative world building. Because if you build the group, if you build the world together, then the players are invested and they care, and they might take ownership over certain ideas or parts of the world. But I do think that doing the entire world to this level of detail, unnecessary. I think starting off with a nice, fun, solid region is much, much, much better. So chapter 4 gets into defining the broad strokes of the other continents. And here's just like what dominates that continent. You can name it using the Namicon page 3-2. You can generate additional, each continent should have 1 or 2 additional details. How many cultures does it have? So, for example, we don't need to know a lot about that continent, right? But like, for example, if we rolled 1, the continent is dominated by a league of city-states. A few of these have deep water ships or a different way of reaching the player's home continent. Boom. We basically just described Essos, right? For the most part, right? If we think about like the, Bravos and Pentos and Lys and, right, all the free states, the free cities. That's kind of Essos, at least the western part of Essos from Game of Thrones. And then what's another detail here? 42. There's creatures with shells. I don't really know what that means, but okay. See also table 4-38, nature of the shell creatures. Dare we go to the nature of the shell creatures? Oh, look at that fail. This table is not linked. I want to know about these shell creatures, though. We're going to table 438. All right. Booyah. All right. The nature of the shell creatures. Where's my shell creatures? 438. Here we go. The nature of the shell creatures is... Oh, they're crabs. I got a 2. Oh, large and highly intelligent versions of the base creature. So there you go. We've got large crabs, intelligent crabs that dominate this interior of this continent. I don't know why, but all right, we can go with it. Now again, you might say, well, that's totally stupid and dumb. Yeah, and so hominids from Magic the Gathering. Damien, nice deep cut, very deep cut. Hold on a second. Now again, this is where things can get a bit silly and out of pocket. Okay, if a continent was dominated by gigantic, intelligent crabs, what would their leader be called? All right, this is ChatGPT. The High Carapax. The Chitin Emperor. Ooh, Chitin Emperor. The Shell Father. The Sovereign of the Sapphire Claw. I am Charpator, first among shells. King Chitin. the shell. Everyone likes the Shell Father. Oh, that's so funny. Shell Father wins. So there you go. Let's say, I'll say. No. Tell me more about the Shell Father and its domain and goals. The Shell Father, a name whispered along reef-bound shores and scrawled in ancient sailors' journals in ink made from crushed kelp and terror. He is not merely the leader of the crabkin. He is their origin, their god king, and the eternal tide. Said to have existed since before the seas knew salt, the Shell Father is a vast, ancient, and psionically gifted crab, the size of a hill whose shell is encrusted with coral cities, glowing barnacle temples, and bioluminescent scripture etched by his claw priests. Some say that his eyes see not just the world, but all possible futures from current fate. His mind pulses like a deep-sea beacon, broadcasting commands across the ocean floor to his subjects. From scout crabs the size of wolves to towering war crustaceans that carry siege weaponry on their back. His domain is the Coral Dominion, the submerged continent and coastal empire known as Carolith, home to sunken temples, undersea trenches, and titanic kelp forests. Inland, the crabs have risen above the tides, forming their shell-stone fortresses and crab-burrowed cities into coastal cliffs. At the heart of the domain lies the Molt Spire, a spiraling ziggurat of chitin and coral, where the Shell Father is said to dream and commune with the deep memory, the psychic gestalt of all crab kind. His goals and ambitions? To achieve the great molting. The Shell Father believes crab kind must evolve again, shedding their shells to become something more. He seeks powerful magical artifacts, ancient runes, and life essence from land dwellers to fuel the next stage of crab evolution. There you go. Everyone's worshiping the Shell Father. I personally, for one, welcome our new Shell Overlords. Whipplestein, thank you for the $50 super chat. Is this a sequel book? Or is this a replacement book? Whipplestein, thank you so much for that incredible super chat. Appreciate that so very much. Whipplestein, this is the Tome of World Building. It is a sequel book. So much like the Tome of Adventure Design was designed to help you, populate adventures and more, locations and stuff like that, villains, monsters. Tome of World Building is about building, well, an entire world, regions, countries, political entities, maps, and that's what we're taking a look at. We're kind of having fun with it. It also, along with the Tome of World Building, Whipplestein, there is the Namicon, and the Namicon is just a bunch of random tables to, come up with cool names. Like, for example, my dwarf, Thunor, or Thulgor. Thulgor's a sweet dwarf name. Or Balgor, Bonor, Baglin, Bonrin, Balin. Literally Balin. We know that's a real name. So thank you, Whipplestein. But yeah, it's, obviously I love the Tome of Adventure Design. So, does the Tome of World Building hold up? Well, the crab empires say yes. Any case, thank you very much, Whipplestein. His pee salted the oceans. Love it. No. His tears salted the ocean when his wife died. Or maybe it was his pee that salted the ocean when his wife died. Bob likes the Claw Priest. Beowulf thinks war crustaceans sound badass. The crabs have psychic gestalt. Love it. Shadram says I'd play that game. The new Tome of World Building equals ChatGPT. Again, I think ChatGPT is an incredible, resource. And it could come up with, just really, for anyone who missed out on us talking about the great wheat harvest that was going to be the final boss of our Fabula Ultima campaign, then you missed out. So anyways, that was what happened. That was, by the way, this isn't even the continent where our main story is taking place, right? This is another continent across the sea. Legends speak of Shellhome and the great crab gestalt that we got because, you know, what did we, I don't even remember what we rolled here. Something about shell people or something. I don't even remember what it was, but we rolled something about the shell. Oh, here it was. Yeah, creatures with shells, and then we rolled on the nature of the shell creatures, and that's where this plus a little bit of ChatGPT, and suddenly we have the Shell Father. Hold on a sec. No, we can take this ridiculousness even further. What are some titles and honorifics for the Shell Father? Ancient, strangely alien, echoing from the trench depths to the tide pools, spoken in Revelant. He who molts last, Lord of the living reef, bearer of the deep memory, the shell of divinity, the tide-born king, the coral-crowned, the shepherd of the shallows and the trench. He is the breaker of boats, the shore reaper, the warden of the salt depths, the dread claw, the creeping doom, the deep king, the molting majesty. He is the Shell Father. You know, and if you can't have fun with this, I don't know. His royal barnacle butter, his royal butter. Do you want me to generate a holy chant or battle cry of his crabkin legions? Of course I do. What is his holy chant or battle cry of his legions? We're just having fun now. Let's see. Oh yes, when the Crab King legions march from the surf, barnacles gleaming, carapaces painted in sacred ochres, and psionic war chants echoing through the hive mind. This is the cry that rises from the collective. Claw to shell, shell to tide. We are the deep memory. We are the molt unending. Chiton binds us. The Shell Father guides us. By the sixth war, by the first molt, we rise. Crush the soft flesh. Crack their bones. Bring Shell to the world above. Hail the Carapex Eternalis. Hail the tide-born crown. All hail the Shell Father. Here's some battle cries that you might shout out. Ready for this one? I gotta share this just so you know I'm not cheating. Ready? Here we go. Here are the battle cries. For the last molt, for the hard god, for Shell and Dominion. And Ron Rittner is here to be put on instant tilt. Hey, buddy. All hail the hard god. For the hard god. Oh. They scream this as they scuttle forward in terrifying unison. Massive pincher-bearing war crabs hammering the earth like drums, while lesser crabkin swarm in tide-like numbers, their minds echoing with the Shell Father's will. Oh, absolutely. I need an image of the Shell Father in all its crustacean glory. Now, keep in mind that the new ChatGPT is not as fast with the image generation as it used to be. You know what? Yes. In fact, the Shell Father is actually the patron god of car oppers because, you know, it's so crunchy. Oh, it would be terrifying, right? Think about this. This is on the other continent. Someone mentioned before, think about that crab front, right? This is like the Sean Chan from Wheel of Time, but like 10 times worse, right? Because now instead of coming over with their, you know, Suldam and their weird, you know, what are they, Tokrath, or whatever weird, strange beasts. These are the crab people. It rolls out images like 1990s porn. I hate it. To be fair, you could use an older image generation. And this is also, by the way, why I still use Midjourney, because Midjourney is so much faster. But the image generator of 4.0 is actually pretty impressive. Look at this stupid thing. There he is, the Shell Father. Toe Rockin'. Thank you, Unfortunate Pumpkin. But there's two, right? There's Toe Rockin' and there's Toe. Everyone on the internet, AI sucks, bring it down. Also, everyone on the internet, I love Midjourney. You know what? I am a little disappointed with this. So what I'm going to do here, you love him? Okay. I'm not a fan of this. All right, hold on a sec. Give me an art prompt for the Shell Father that I can use for Midjourney. I want it to be more godlike and psionically empowered. Well, you know, it changed a little bit, George G. I mean, I think there's a... there we go. The Shell Father... Yes. There we go. Perfect. It even gave me the aspect ratio that I wanted. Thank you. It probably just knows me because, you know, it knows what I'm up to. Let me go over to this. Let me go over to, this is clearly Torchbearer, right? All right. Imagine. All right. We'll see what Midjourney can come up with here. Ooh, would you like a version with more Lovecraft? Now, keep in mind, I'm not trying to like take this image and sell it and all this other stuff, but you know, it's for just having fun, messing around. I mean, it's great. All right, I didn't hit enter, so Midjourney has to do its thing. Ooh, do we want more benevolent mythic tones instead, or do we want more Lovecraftian horror vibes? I can't see hard in that description. I mean, it's clearly assumed that it is hard. Okay, there were the smaller Rockin' and then the larger Toe Rock, right? The Toe Rockin' were the ones that they could do like long distance troop transport on, and the Rockin' were the more like, you know. Now here we have. Now this is what Midjourney came up with in its initial 4 things. Now, I mean, I think these are a little bit. I think these are a little bit cooler, in my personal opinion. George says they're too jazzy. No, these are too generic. Okay, all right. What are we missing here? All right, we're way off. What would it do with Franzetta in the pop, or does it just give it a hot crap? Let's try it. Let's remix this here. All right. Inspired by the style of Franzetta. All right. We're remixing. We need a boat in the thing to get a scale. Okay, I'm with you on that one. Oh, there's a nice little Latin chat. O shell pater, dues profundi, surge corna corali, claves flame mentas acule lumen antiqua, orinos crostasi canuta, gloria in fossa, shell pater regnat. I know that means like the Shell Father rules eternal. Well, I don't know that this went really Franzetta on us, but didn't seem super Franzetta to me. Yeah, it's not that different. Let's go back here. Hold on a sec here. Mix up the prompt a lot and give it more Lovecraftian horror vibes. Make it psionic and scaly. All right. Dripping with Lovecraftian horrors. All right, here we go. All right. Yes. All right. More biblical angel. All right. coming in. Right, this is a normal stream. Right, for transcending its flesh, that makes sense. Kaiju, that might be a good keyword too. I mean, there's definitely a skill, right, to prompting and stuff like that. All right, what do we got here? All right. All right, here is Lovecraftian. Ooh, I kind of like number 2 up here in the corner. I mean, this is definitely more, you know, D&D-esque appropriate. This looks like a Magic the Gathering creature, honestly. Too symmetrical. Yeah, I like. Okay, yeah. So Pumpkins with me. I like number 2 as well. I think this is cool. I love, you know, the crab. Maybe these are war crabs, right? The war crustaceans. Those are like for scale, you know, in the background. I love the purple crackling psionic energy coming off of it. It's kind of got like it almost looks like it, you know, a little bit. I don't know. I'm down with it. Yeah, I'd go with number 2. I'd be totally acceptable for number 2. I think that's totally fine. Anyways, number 2 it is. So back to the continents that we had. Can you imagine if we had gotten toad or frog creatures? So anyways, it lets you quickly figure out 1 or 2 really big, high-level, interesting details about each continent. In fact, from a Dungeon World perspective, you might think of this as being able to create like a front. You know, Wobblestein. Damn, see, the problem with you guys is you come up with these great ideas, and then I want to do them because they sound cool. All right, so here we go. Let's go here. And then let's go back here. I want to take the giant crab god king in this image, but show him at scale destroying a human seaside village that he towers over as the humans and elves run screaming in terror. If you're new to KLC, this is a pretty typical first look. Well, who are the crab people at war with? Well, kind of everyone, right? Because if they want to achieve if they want to achieve the next evolution of crab kind and achieve the great molting, right? We know that they need to absorb the life essences of land-dwelling creatures, right? Because the crab are trying to basically, right? You know the whole thing, right? Everything evolves into a crab. Well, now the crab are evolving into everything, right? The great molting will leave none behind. All will be crab. All will be one. Right. We transcend our flesh. All right. Yes. Someone described this as the 90s porn version of ChatGPT, and I kind of actually agree with it. Right. You know, right. The crabs, everything evolves into crabs, but crabs, evolve into everything. You know, we did talk about that there was like a great apocalypse that like destroyed the island nation that was our Dragontide campaign, and maybe this was it. You're ready to trade your flesh for shell? And first we must slay all the milk-bearing creatures. This is excellent. All right, here we go. All right, we're going big here. Where is it? There it is. All right. There's our heart. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. The tide, the surge, the storm surge swooping into the town, overcoming it. I don't know how the buildings are on fire from psionic devastation. I mean, this is pretty badass. The crabs can fly. Flee for your lives. Oh, George, that's great. Why do you run, fools? I am the change bringer. Oh, GM Scott, totally. I totally get. Remember when in Rise of the Rune Lords, when the group tried to fight the Black Maga? It's total Black Maga vibes here. Shed your mortal flesh and embrace the chitin. Oh yeah, like what's it called? Isn't it called like cancerification? Isn't that what the term that they use? I think, right? Isn't that a real term for like when things become like a crab? Isn't that a term? Am I making that up? No, ossification is where things become like stone. Crabification. A carcinification. Tell me about the Shell Fathers. There you go. I mean, this is so good. All right. Carcinification, the Shell Father's dread power. All things tend towards crab. Inscription found scrawled in salt and blood on the walls of a shipwrecked monastery. Carcinification is the Shell Father's most terrifying divine and psionic gift. It is not merely a spell, nor a curse, but a cosmic principle, a corruptive apotheosis of crustacean form, a biological inevitability made manifest through divine will. When the Shell Father invokes carcinification, he rewrites the flesh and fate of lesser beings, pulling their bodies towards crab likeness, whether they will it or not. Targets within range of the Shell Father's psionic aura of chitinous ascension. What a fucking name. Psionic aura of chitinous ascension. Oh my God, it's so good. Must make a wisdom or constitution save, depending on the situation. On a failed save, you begin. Your hair falls out. You turn into a flaky carapace. Joints turn sideways. Eyes begin to split into facets. Voice is lost, replaced by kittering. Legs double at the knees. You are now a crab spawn, a broken mockery of their former self, driven by crustacean instinct and a psionic obedience to the Shell Father. On a critical failure, the subject may become a psionic-like crab lord, retaining some intelligence and now a priest or war thrall of the Shell Father. Some believe carcinification is not a punishment, but a sacred elevation, the last molt of mortal form. Man, that is good. Ooh. Does Old Bay destroy them, or does it enrage them further? Okay, hold on a second. Wait. I want. Let's pick a game system here. Let's go for 5e, just because it's easy, right? For 5th ED, describe for me mechanically how the crabs / Shell Father / crabkin are vulnerable and weak to their natural anathema, the condensed form of mammalian potency, butter. Yes, you have walked the sacred path. Let us now speak of the golden doom, that which melts the carapace and stills the claw. Though mighty, the Shell Father and his crabkin are cursed with a deep primal fear of butter. This rich, fatty, mammalian essence represents everything that they are not: softness, warmth, indulgent, and melting. Creatures of the Shell Father's lineage, including the Shell Father himself, have vulnerability to butter-based attacks and melted dairy-based alchemical compounds. Any attack or spell that incorporates butter, magical or otherwise, deals double damage to Crabkin and the Shell Father. A spell like Create Food Water, used to conjure scalding golden ghee, can deal radiant / butter damage. An alchemist's butter flask can be thrown like a flask of holy water, and a paladin's divine smite, flavored with culinary wrath, e.g., enchanted butter knives, deals additional radiant damage to Crabkin. Look, it's way ahead of you, Hardrick. Spell modification, grease, the butter version. If the grease spell is flavored as butter grease, Crabkin in the affected area make saves with disadvantage. They treat the area as difficult terrain even if they succeed, and a Crabkin who ends its turn in a butter grease zone takes 1d4 psychic damage from existential dread and ancestral fear. All right. See? It's a good book. Now, yes, obviously you can clearly get into the silly and absurd. I mean, obviously I asked it for butter and we went with the Crab King, the Shell Father, but you know, it is what it is. So pretty cool stuff. Now that was just one thing off of one roll off of this table. This is the surface level details for the other continents. And they have all sorts of different stuff here. It could be, we had dominated by shell creatures, but it could have a death religion. It could be dominated by a giant swamp. It could have a legendary city ruled by a deity or a demigod. It could be the great monkey god or the great vulture god. The great crab god. We can get there. See, look, you can get there multiple ways. Legendary cities ruled by a powerful undead creature, a crusade, blah, blah, blah. And this is just to roughly sketch out what's going on with the other continents. And there was a lot of tables here. And look, this is where it all began. Crab. Large and highly intelligent version. This is where it all started, folks. There's just a ton of stuff here. Jeez. All right. So, if you're not much of a map maker, this is how you quickly do continental map planning. It basically gives you a description to join together pieces of paper and randomly come up with stuff so that you end up with a world map, basically, which seems a bit excessive, but just use Photoshop. All right, so chapter 5 is we finally get into our actual home continent, where we actually are going to have real detail. And this is where it talks about cultural basins. So these aren't nations. These are just the cultures that dominate an area. Let's see here. Begin. All right, so this is how we do this. This is the procedure. You don't have to follow it, but I probably wouldn't. But begin by printing some blank hex map sheets. Your final map doesn't need to be a hex map, but this is a shortcut for measuring areas. Choose a place on the first sheet to begin the coastline of the continent. You may want to decide on the size of your world and where the first map sheet is located so you have an idea if you're in tropical or wintry area. Roll on table 5-1, coastal cultural basins below for a description of the geographical area occupied by this culture. You will also get descriptions of the internal, minor, borders between countries inside the cultural basin and of the external, major borders. Continuing with the map, you can keep rolling for coastal cultural basins and upriver cultural basins if you want to focus on the widespread geography, or you can generate details about the cultures as you go, whichever you want to do. So each cultural basin has a different starting map template, and then you kind of follow it along so that you end up creating different, cultures, not necessarily, like Anglos, Saxons, Franks, Gauls, right? Not necessarily the political entities, but the cultural entities. And each of these different profiles that you roll randomly has, you've got a realm here that's 1820 plus 15 hexes. There's a coast that's this long, a river that's this long. And I think there's one of these for every single profile. And this is just for the coasts. Jeez. How do you even make something like this? This is crazy, right? Oh, we had a lake here. This is a lake realm. But it also shows you where to put like your borders. Like there might be a geographical border. Like there's a reason why this, happens. Now, Yashadram, you say that, but they did do that for the Tome of Adventure Design. I think it's available on Steam, I think, where they made an app for it. So, yeah. Oh, there's one. There's an island realm off the coast. I mean, this is very, very, very exhaustive. But I agree that, again, like they said, they did that for Tome of Adventure Design. They made an app. Ooh, here we have a golf. I'm a big fan of golfs. I like golfs. Like a headland. I mean, there's just so much different stuff here. Holy crap. Now, these are all the coastals. Then we have the upriver. So this is like when you go inland and what you come across. I mean, this is just a tremendous amount of detail, far more than I ever would have expected. I mean, there's just more here than you would ever need, ever. Yep, that's it. Fantasy Adventure Builder. Cool. Oh, the value seems insane. I mean, this thing is, again, there's more here than you would need, but that's okay, right? Like, we'll take the value. So this is great. So we missed it here, but this is where the culture starts getting into the religion. So we've got the different, how many gods do you have? We have all these different pantheon patterns. Pantheon pattern 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we have to roll to see what the structure of the pantheon is, what the deities are structured as. How is the religion organized and instructed? How are the temples built? What is the religious followings? How is the government and politics of your area organized? What are some historical turning points? This, I think, is particularly cool and interesting. And then we get to chapter 6, where we actually start building out the countries. We talked about this before, but this is getting into like some really into the weed stuff here, like population density and stuff that I don't really tend to care about, but populations, people per hexes. Again, you'd have to be pretty to get the most realism for your world, which I don't recommend. Here is a workable procedure. But some people are crazy. Look at that. And we've got a table of random customs or distinguishing customs, customary gestures from your nation or region, different oaths and sayings, expressions of wonder, expressions of anger or frustration. Like, I mean, it's kind of cool, but like, if like when someone is angry, and they say, by the moons or by the trees, like, I don't even need anything else about a nation to like come up with this and then be like, why would they say that? Like, what are the trees and like, why are they important? And why would they say by the trees? Like, I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, Beowulf, I agree. This stuff, way cooler and way more interesting to me than population density. I think is very, very cool. Expressions of wonder by the, or by all the, so like, so, by the howling swords or by the howling cups. Like, that's cool. Like, why are they saying that? Like, that's a cool way of saying it. A phrase, a gesture. What is that country or commodity? What is that country known for? Is their commodity or craft? They make the finest tea, the finest coffee. Bloody trees is what golfers would say. By Grabthar's hammer, by the sons of Warven, you shall be avenged. By Grabthar's hammer. What a savings. It's a great movie. Styles of dress. Now, this is, we're getting into like Beowulf zone here. But, for some people, this is pretty cool. What are some recent events inside of the country? A curse, a famine, a new form of music or poetry, a plague, a new trade route, countrywide faction wars. So if you roll on a faction war, then you roll on this sub-table. Maybe it's a guild against another guild, or a noble house against a temple or deity. I mean, these things are just front cities, for creating Dungeon World style fronts and just creating cool ideas that you can set your game in. Names for a plague. Sweet. The crap. No. The dungeon fever. I got a prescription, and the only I got a fever, and the only prescription is more dungeons. Here's an entire table with 6 different formulas for the name of a war. The War of Two. Wait, that doesn't even make sense. The War of Name for a War Part 1. Oh, these are different columns. Okay. And then Name for a War Part 2. Okay. So I got to roll. All right. The War of the Purple Dragons. The War of the Purple Kings. The War of the Mist Oaths. That sounds pretty cool. Hold on a sec. Bloop. Tell me. All right. Tell me about the Mist of the War. Tell me about the War of the Mist Oaths. 300 years ago, in the Shrouded Vale and the Mist Marches, between the oath-bound clans of the Vale and the kingdom of Thalanor. Long ago, the Shrouded Vale was a land of ancient pacts. The clans who lived there, keepers of forgotten spirits and misty barrows, were bound by mist oaths, sacred binding promises sworn before the Vale spirits. These oaths were unbreakable, and those who violated them were said to be cursed by the mists themselves, transformed into hollow wraiths or hunted by ghostly hounds. When the kingdom of Thalanor sought to expand its territory, it sent envoys to the Vale to negotiate passage and trade. A truce was signed, sealed by an oath of mist. But the ambitious young king of Thalanor broke the oath within a decade, building roads through sacred glades and opening mines in forbidden hills. The mists rose. The war. The war lasted an entire generation. Children were born into it. Mist walkers, those touched by both spirit and flesh, emerged as leaders of resistance. No treaty ended the war. The mists simply receded one day. The kingdom abandoned the region, its nobles too afraid of the curse. The Vale clans buried their dead beneath standing stones and etched new oaths into them, ones never to be broken again. But some say the last oath sworn in that war still binds a bloodline. A descendant of the Oathbreaker king will one day return to the Vale, and when they do, the mists will arise again. Now, I like to think that I'm a good and creative dungeon master. I could not have come up with that that quick. And yes, that totally sounds like the Forbidden Lands. But if it sounds a little tropey, that's a good thing. I've talked about this before. I think tropes are a good thing. All right. Chapter 7, we get into terrain. And we've got stuff here for deserts. A theme is designed to produce a basic description of the desert, a quick summary players might encounter in a gazetteer or traveler's account, or that you might put notes in for your description of the desert. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. This is the chapter I actually said I thought would be really cool. So we've got a bunch of different ways that we could do it. A situation plus a monster. Roll on table 7-8 desert theme and table 7-7 desert monster. So we've got desert theme artifacts, desert theme deities, desert theme activities, a location, a monster. So let's roll for a monster here. We got a D20 and we got a situation. So our situation, let me roll that first. Our situation, table 7-8 is, I got a 10. Okay, it's raids and raiding. And the monster, ooh, is a rock. Okay, so we've got raiding rocks. You know, maybe they're like picking off entire herds of camel or something. You know, like there's an angry nest of rocks, or maybe a group of rocks has moved in. That's a major problem. That's cool. That's a cool way to describe a desert situation. Now, of course, imagine if I had drawn cactus monster or magic camel. Then we would be talking about something different. Eating the remains of the fallen crabkin. Of course, we have to bring it back to the crabkin. Duncan DT.
$5. GM Tools Becamp GM Tools PogChamp.
Duncan DT, thank you for the tip. I don't know. PogChamp, is that a thing? I don't know that. Is that something I should know? Am I being trolled here? What's going on? Or are you just trying to use the emoji? Like, because we don't have that emoji. Oh, okay. It just means very good. Okay, great. All right. I'm not a very big, like, I obviously know the PogChamp emoji. I just never saw anyone type it out before, but maybe it's because we don't have that emoji. Beowulf, and I mean this with all the love in my heart, you're a weird guy. So we're not going to go through all these, but I mean, this is sweet. This is everything I want this is just for deserts. I mean, we've got desert maps, extra stuff about the deserts, and this is the cool stuff. Like, this is where, like, I mean, like, look at that, desert legends. I mean, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. Like, okay, we've got 86. So we've got the legend, the secrets of the Red Canyon. That's so cool. Man, like, I could just already, I'm just thinking of a cool adventure, The Secret of the Red Canyon. Sounds like the name of a Hardy Boys novel. What about the legend of, you know, the Jewel of the Pharaoh, you know, or the Lost Pyramid, or the Curse of the Serpent, you know, the Warriors of the Storm. I mean, that's awesome. It's so cool. And like, I just need that little bit. To get me motivated to go into this other things. And that's just desert. We have a whole other set of situations for forests. We've got swamps, hills, mountains. All sorts of stuff. Swamps and marshes. I mean, this is great. Now, this one is for global interest groups. This would include things like, in real life, the example of like the medieval Catholic Church, the Freemasons, you know, global assassin guilds, druidic guilds, bardic colleges, that type of stuff. I don't know why this is in here, but if you really want like a global Illuminati type thing, here's a bunch of tables for generating that. That doesn't interest me as much, but it does have, look at that. You can roll for, you know, what are their goals, who belongs to them, what type of class. You can see this is obviously very coded towards old school gaming play, but that's okay. What if it's a order of knighthood? We've got different tables for that. Public Works Association, Religious Association, secret societies, mercantile leagues. And then what started our Patreon monster creation contest was these legendary locations. So you roll a D8, and that kicks us off. So I'm going to roll. Now, we rolled a boat of a powerful monster, and I just rolled a 4. So this is a natural holy site. So let's go down to the natural holy site. Look at all these things here. Library, archive. This is just from the one thing. I must have missed it. Here we go. Natural holy site. Roll on either column. Many of these have alternatives listed in parentheses. All right, let's roll. D10. All right, I got a 10. So it's a meadow or a field or a battlefield, or it's a waterfall or a cataract. And let's see here what it is associated with. Roll on any of the 5 columns. I got a 9. So it could have to do with borders. Ooh, I like the idea of judgment. Ooh, no. Prophecy. That's sick. Okay. So I love the idea of like a waterfall, like maybe something with like having to do with like the flow of time, and like if you like go to this cave, there's like a natural waterfall, and like if you stand in it, you receive like a vision of your fate or something like that. It's like a holy place to like this god of almost like help me out. Who's the Theros god? The blue Crufix, right? Remember Crufix? The blue-green god from Theros. And that association with like the stream of fate, and it's kind of like a place where like the humans can touch it, and that's cool. I love stuff like that. That's the type of stuff by the way, I like to put into like mega dungeons and stuff like that too. I think that's pretty sweet. Anyways, that's a cool thing. And by the way, did you not like that table? Here's a whole other table. Though, by the way, those are positive connections. We could also have we have another table, and then we have negative connotations, right? So, we talked about one of the rolls that we had was like a battlefield. So we could roll here. We get a 16. So, something having to do with wolves or the hunt or disloyalty, maybe a place where like, the traitor, your clan turned against you, almost like the Paths of the Dead, right? How they were traitors, they were cursed by the king of Gondor for not coming to the aid of Gondor, and it's kind of like that, GM Scott. Oh yes, it just came out I would say this month, but last month. Yep. You were on vacation. Yeah, you should be able to get the link and then get it for free on your drive-through RPG thing. Anyways, this is probably the stuff I would use the most. Here we go. The ruins of place name determined from Namicon. The blank of blank of blank. The blank of blank of blank. So we could roll this from the Namicon, or we could roll Formula 2. Roll on table 915, ruin type, the part 1, part 2 of any personal name, including monsters. So our ruin is going to be part 1, part 2. It's going to be the collapsed cloister of, the collapsed towers of, and then we could roll from like the Nomicon, or we could have a personal name. The collapsed towers of Asinius. That was my cool mage from one of Smith's campaigns. And we have similar stuff for strongholds and a bunch of stuff. So chapter 10 goes into cities and settlements. And this is like very Gygaxian stuff here. Different types of castles. An unusual castle, like it's built of bones, or it's built for giant scale. Random people from your castle, different things about your town, like what's the pride of your town. I think this is way more interesting than knowing the population density of your town. Like this tells me almost everything I need to know about a dungeon, or about a town. Like I rolled 52 here. This town is known for their masonry. Cool. Like immediately I'm thinking of a town that has beautiful stonework, gorgeous architecture, and maybe it's a human town, but they took in a clan of dwarves who had been driven out by a dragon 200 years ago, and the dwarven family settled here, and as part of that, they've built this human town into this wondrous stonework place. Or maybe it's a place where there's a magical stone imbued fey creatures or mages who can work with stone, something very like Valyrian steel-esque. I mean, you could just take that one idea and just build a really cool idea about it. And like I said, I like to make my fantasy games fantastical. I think it's just like a medieval town, man. Everyone's poor, and it looks just like everyone's living in shit in cottages made of thatch and sticks. Like, I don't really love that. I don't necessarily want everything to be like, I'm going to call them on my crystal ball and dial them 1-800-MAGIC. I don't necessarily need that either, but I think it's fine for fantasy to be fantastic. I've said that before. So this is all a bunch of information about towns, different businesses, buildings, religious buildings, events in town, prisons, cultural changes. And then chapter 11 is all about creating gods. What kind of alignment? Are they alive? Are they dead? What do they look like? What What kind of god are they? Are they an art god, a guardian god, a battle god? What is their power? What is their symbol? What are their myths? What are they associated with? Who are they opposed by? Who are they antagonized with? And then you have different subcategories for each of these roles. Here's the information on the art deities. Here's the information on the battle deities. Here's tables for the guardian deities, the healer deities. Ah, yes, our healer deity, known for healing, curing, and masks. I was going to say, and dogs. Healing, curing, and gnomes. Make that sense. Oh, what? Did I just hear this? Hold on a sec. ChatGPT. Okay. I have a goddess. We'll make it a goddess. Goddess of healing, curing, and gnomes. Please describe. Lilibellin, the gentle tinker, the blooming touch, the matron of mirth and mending, the lady of the lint, the gnome heart, healing, restoration, gnomes, joy, invention, mischief. Her divine symbol, a spool of silver thread entwined with a blooming flower, often a daisy, sometimes a mushroom, needled through a tiny brass gear. She appears as a kindly gnome woman with twinkling eyes, a streak of paint or soot on her cheek, and a dozen half-finished projects tucked into her patchwork robes. Her followers are clerics and herbalists who blend laughter, lore, and poultices, tinker priests who use clockwork inventions to soothe pain and entertain children, hospitals and healing halls. Naturally, gnomes revere her as their prime divine matron, although she's loved by halflings, kind-hearted alchemists, and wandering minstrels. Her tenants, fixed with now EU says terribly stereotypical. I don't mind too much stereotypicals, but let's do this here. Look at this. I love how ChatGPT remembers stuff. Would you like some stat blocks or how she fits into a pantheon, like with your Dragon Tide settings? All right. This is too stereotypical. Try something more bizarre. Zizbatal, the cure worm. The infinite tourniquet, she who vibrates beneath, the Kyurgian spiral. Her symbol is a Mobius strip made of teeth, bandages, and brass wire encircling a single gnome eye. Pain is information. The body is a suggestion. Fix it, twist it, improve it. All things spiral. Embrace the loop. Gnomes are not small. They are folded. Clergy, which are called respiralists, use surgical poetry and living prosthetics to treat disease and restore vitality. They wear layered bandages and segmented armor made from reanimated muscle. They consider gnome not a race, but a metaphysical orientation, those who accept the spiral logic of absurdity and genius. They bless with tongue clicks, subcutaneous humming, or injecting tiny symbiospirals into the skin. She once cured a citywide plague by infecting everyone with a counter plague made from recombinant jokes and mold spores. She unfolded a mountain gnome so fully that he now exists as a concept that you can only interact with when deeply concussed. Her high holy artifact is the Vibratorium, a divine tuning folk made from cured bone and a single note of pain, used to reset bodily harmony. Want a sect that believes she's actually contagious? Oh, that she's actually a contagious thought virus? Or maybe her gnomes are her tumors that gained sentience and started crafting stuff. Let's keep spiraling. Okay, weird stuff. I think we're almost done. Listen, it's not fucking around. You're like, I subvert my expectations. It goes, all right, motherfucker, let's go. Awesome stuff here. This is, again, tables upon tables for every different type of deity. If you want to, now we're getting into the eldritch horrors. What do we got here? We've got a thing that looks like a vast animal with changing features and limbs that with mouths somehow. Or what about it's a planet surrounded by birds? Its constructs are animal-like. Okay, birds. Oh, sick. With lasers. Oh, that's great. All I want is some freaking birds with some freaking laser beams. Its epithet is known as of the mythic jewelry. By the way, this is a miss from them. These subtables should definitely be linked. I'm going to roll again because I don't feel like it. It is known as, oh, there we go. Here we go. It is known as the poet. How do we explain our dead god? What about a mythic level antagonists? The Dark Lord, the Dark Lady, the demonic Ephesus. The vibratorium reminded me of the pain stick the confessors used in Legends of the Seeker. I don't think you mean the confessors, right? Don't you mean the... It's called like the Agile or something. They're the people who serve... It's not Randall Thor. It's... God, what are they called? They serve the evil mage guy. It's called like the Agile... the Mord Sith. The Mord Sith. That is what they are called. They are called the Mord Sith. No, we got it. They're the Mord Sith. We'll just Google this really quickly. What weapon did the Mord Sith wield? I think it was called like the Agile or something. The Agile. That's what it's called. The Agile. And that was the pain stick. Good stuff. By the way, that show, well, the book series is a sort of truth, but the show, which is, I think, called Legend of the Seeker, was the closest to softcore porn fantasy PG-13. No, it's not even PG-13, really. I don't think they ever show anybody actually getting killed. Like, even though they have swords, I think that you just see them, like, getting hit in their armor and going down. So it's, like, the closest to, like, softcore porn PG daytime television fantasy, medieval theme magic fantasy that has ever happened. It's basically softcore porn Lord of the Rings, basically, as far as I can tell. If you guys have never seen this is crazy. It was terrible, and I loved it. I mean, I didn't think the books were particularly that great, by the way. This is like Wizard's First Rule. It's a sort of truth novels. The first novel is called Wizard's First Law, Wizard's First Rule, Wizard's First Rule. It's a sort of truth. Quite fitting given the book and the author. Yes, exactly. Correct. So yeah, lots of information about gods and deities and gods and more 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 deities. Ooh, plant deities, reptile deities, deities of travel, weather deities. What about minor gods? We have Ankh-Agor, the child of battle. And we have Bel-Akar, the dreamer of bitterness. And we have Hul-Atep, the hawk of men. The hawk of men actually sounds pretty sweet. Or do you mean the hawk Tua? Oh, what about Thols-Otep, the summoner of war? Or Tol-Oth, the thief of winter. The thief of winter sounds sweet. Temples. What goes on at your temples? Administrative buildings at your temples. What are the details? It's the holy cod piece. And then these are your big personalities. These are almost like your icons from 13th Age. These are like your global or world level personalities. These people who sort of dominate. A religious leader could be a good guy, could be a bad guy, could be evil, villainous. Your monarchs, your empresses, your dukes, your tribal chiefs, your random bit player from history. And then we get our mythical items and places. These aren't just like special places. These are like truly like planar, artifact level type locations. The blessed blank of Anu, the burner. This is armor. The dark plate mail or the dark chain mail of Bala, the coercer. The dragon armor of Dana, the despoiler. The fiery plate of Hama, the disenchanter. Very cool. These also could be weapons. The runic axe of Ur, the seeker. The shattered spear of Salka, the slayer. The storm sword of Uta, the traveler. Stuff sounds cool to me. And these are just names of cool magic items. I'm down for it. The pointy dagger of Bob the Builder. This is the kind of stuff I bought the book for. Naming things is my biggest weakness. Right. Well, remember, there's an entire separate book just for naming things. In fact, that book that we're in right now references this book several times because it's just like, roll a name here somewhere. For example, we need to create a creator deity name. All right, here we go. This is a short form. So it is 6U9. Uto is the name of our creator deity in this world. Or Ulufos. Namicon. Here's, if we want it hyphenated, we could go with Azul Aman or Zulbar. Or we could go with a Eldritch God name or different things. And what about planar locations? And what about epithets, titles, names for legendary places? The terrain type of blank, the forest of anger, the hills of anger, the swamps of anger. Here's a Troubadouric. I don't know what Troubadouric is. That might be a made-up language. This table generates names such as the Alquin Peaks or the marshes of Iskalord. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This is a little chat GPT thing. This is where this book is worth its weight in gold. Because what ChatGPT is really bad at creating is proper nouns that are nonsense, right? Like it'll give you a lot of like the blood marshes or the marshes of wasting, or it'll give you, the forgotten peaks or the lost peaks or the sacred peaks. You'll get a lot of that from ChatGPT. But what you will not get is proper names like the Alquin Peaks or the marshes of Iskalord. Now, let me be very clear. I think a lot of people overdo this and they go way too deep and they make everything nonsensical sounding and players never remember it. If you have the group of bad guy knights who are this evil knight organization, you could call them the Knights of Gilgarthaxis. Or you could call them the Knights of the Blood Throne. And the chances are pretty good that your players will never know or remember what the Knights of Gilgarthaxis is. And they'll probably mispronounce it, and then it'll become a joke, and they'll call them like the Knights of Gargamel. And it'll become like a Smurfs joke or something. Right. The more X's, Z's, and apostrophes, the better. I mean, Smith, I used to tease Smith for that exceedingly. Smith loved his apostrophes. It'd be like, Tol ar atal asa, and it's like, nobody remembers that. But if you call them the Knights of the Blood Throne, it's very simple, evocative, and to the point. And so while I do think that there is a place for proper nouns, I do think people can overdo it, especially if it's really nonsensical. I think the fact that George is right. I think the fact that it uses known languages as sort of phonetic points makes it a little bit easier because it'll tend to be more reasonable sounding. Yes, Zath Andal Ur Aramat. There's a reason, by the way, that a lot of Tolkien names are easily remembered and are easily used. It's because Tolkien derived his fantastic languages like Khazalid for dwarves and, Sindarin and Quenya for elves from other real languages. So they have a natural sending to them. And that's why it's easy in certain ways to remember things like Lorien or Lothlorien or whatever, or Mordor or Gondor, as opposed to, something that is literally just a bunch of random syllables that have no, things. Right. Tolkien was a linguistic genius. Makes sense. Anyways, this is not even the book we were looking at. That's the Nomicon. So very cool there. Look at all these tables. There's so many different tables. This is the third table, D100, for coming up with weapons. Oh, look at that. The asteroid hammer. The asteroid weapon. Pearly, scary, thunder. It keeps going. Here's some mythic clothing, mythic containers, mythic furniture, statues, light sources, musical instruments, jewelry, rural places, mythical wild places, mythical rural places. Very cool. Mythical vehicles. All right. And then we get our monstrous leaders. Who will rise to beat the Shell Father? Let us find out. 65. It is an ooze. All right. It conveys a magical power. Oh, it's butter. Shadram.
I am strong.
No, it's got to be a sentient butter ooze. Of course it is. And it conveys a magical power on those who make sacrifices to it, benefit to leaders of armories. How did it get this benefit? I got a D4 here somewhere. Yeah, I do. The monstrous leader's power stems from an item of some kind. The great churning. The great churner. Exactly. Yes, Platinus, we're on the same page, buddy. Anyways, all sorts of stuff here for just creating, mythical monster type things. There it is, the great butter. The great enemy of King Chiton, cholesterol. And again, I can't help but have fun. It is what it is. What is the name and origin of the semi-sentient, divine, intelligent, or divine butter ooze creature that opposes the Shell Father? Glubmala, the churned woe. She who spreads the melted heresy, butter wraith of the ninth pad, the gilded slow of rebellion. Oh, boy. She who spreads. Well, she who spreads, right? The hard god. I'm just saying. I mean, there's sort of a yin-yang, female, male, like, balance there, right? Maybe, right? It's like, what what would happen? Like, liberate the bound fats. Look at that. Like Glubmala, scraped across too much bread. Churned in the pyramid of Giza. Oh, that's good. That's good. She can melt the will. She can spread the form. Butter birth. She can enter the dreams of dairy-sensitive individuals and offer them a taste of true warmth. Oh, here we go. Sapient cholesterol. Ooh, the Meltborn or the Lathered. It's her cult of the churned woe. They speak in sizzling tongues, and they wield frying pans. I can't believe it's not Goblin. No. Okay, what would happen if there were an offspring of the Shellfather and Glubmala? A perfect union of form and formlessness, crab and butter. Oh, killing me. The claw drip air, the cradled emulsion, herald of the sizzling shell, the pincer that looms. His scream is like boiling. He is the crab messiah that shouldn't be.
For prefect tip $25. Put it here so YouTube doesn't take a cut. But hey, if you can do an extra stream during the week, maybe now you do.
Hell yeah, Ford. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to overdo it. I've seen people actually get depressed when I stream a third time, if I do it my Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, because they're like, no, it's too many streams. But what I'll definitely be able to do, Ford, is do more midday streams. Obviously, the main reason why I don't normally stream during the day is I was working. And so now I can maybe do some early, not early morning, but noon streams, which is evening in Europe. And maybe even do some earlier streams than that for some, AU people. And I'd like to be able to fit those in as well, just to get more times in, not just more streams, but maybe an additional time, even maybe every week. Again, I don't know how long I'm going to be jobless. I got a little bit of time. I've got some savings, and, I've got my channel that helps support me. So that makes, I can stretch that savings a long time. And it depends. I mean, maybe I'll try to do something with the channel, or do something with creating something or working with something. People have been really excited about this, the Project Shadow Deep. So yeah, I could finally stream with Emma and Fabula Ultima, because Emma's over in Italy. So they're on, they're 7 hours, 8 hours ahead. So if I can do that around noon, our time, then it'll be 8 or 9 their time. So, something like that. I think that'd be awesome. I mean, we crushed that goal. So we do have to, unfortunately, we crushed that goal before I talked to him and said if he could do it, but I would absolutely love to get Emma on the channel. So just a lot of cool stuff, and I'm really looking forward to it. So as long as you guys keep supporting me and being awesome and showing up and laughing and joking along with me, I think we'll keep doing this. So thank you for that. Okay, so that was what you got when you combined the Hard God and She Who Spreads. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously we crushed the tip goal, and so it kind of loops over to the super chat goal. All hail the Hard God. And then lastly, chapter 15, useful facts. Water apparently does not flow uphill; it only flows downhill. There's a difference between a lake and a sea. Here are the lengths of rivers, and here are some sizes of lakes. Checklist. There's already one great checklist. It goes like this: fencing, fighting, torture, poison, true love, hate, revenge, giants, hunters, bad men, good men, beautifulest ladies, snakes, spiders, pain, death, good brave men, cowardly men, strongest men, chases, escapes, lies, truths, passion, miracles. From The Princess Bride. It's hard to improve on that. However, this particular book benefits from a more detailed breakdown, which we offer here. So this is just things to think about including in your game. I love this list. What about something for portals to other worlds, a really deep canyon, a bizarre culture, a fey leader, an order of knights, an order of paladins, a desperate guild, a ghost city, a hidden city, a desert, at least one volcano, deadly plagues, brave knights, lost civilizations, people, drug trafficking, uncharted waters. Enjoy. And then our massive index, where to find everything and all the pages. And then, of course, the master table, the list of all the tables in the book. Hundreds, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, hundreds of pages of tables. And then some hex paper at the back for the end of it. So that is the Tome of World Building and some brief snippets of the Namicon. I mean, overall, I backed this for $100, and that includes the 2 physical copies. I mean, like I said, for me, I get more mileage out of these books than anything. They are system agnostic. They help me become creative and create truly unique experiences. I love the challenge of rolling things randomly and trying to make them work. I think it's fun. I think that, to me, that's like the heart of RPGing. It's not playing a character. It's getting random results and trying to make something out of it. I think that's awesome. Thank you, Shadram.
Shadram tipped $25. Derek, a thank you for yet another inspirational stream. Had a lot of fun. Sorry that life has been kicking you while you're down, but we've got your back.
Thank you, Shadram. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we're all here for each other, and I appreciate that you all are appreciating the community that you have helped build. But I've certainly kind of been the public face of. Anyway, it's been a very difficult 12 months for me. Starting with the studio getting shut down in April, and then the fire happened, and then the panic attacks and the hospitalizations, and my dog had that incredibly risky, expensive surgery. And then I was in the hospital a few times, and I was seeing a therapist, and I was having anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And then things seemed to be getting a little bit better. And then, but then my company sold, and I was worried about my job for a year. Turns out I was just a year early. And now, my father passed, another dog emergency, my hot water tank exploded, $12,000 to paint my house, or the walls of my house. My father died, and now I lost my job. And that basically is April to April, April 24 to April 25. Oh yeah, and of course the world economy is collapsing, and a lot of my friends are losing their jobs, and a lot of good people are losing their jobs, and things are going to get really expensive, and who knows what the fate of the TTRPG universe is going to be. It's not great. I mean, I don't know what the future is, but like a lot of people, obviously, when you think about your Knights of Last Call, emeritus, Tim from Knights of Last Call, he's out of a job. It's very likely that Smith, who I work with, he believes, given the things, he'll be out of a job before the summer. By the end of summer or whatever, they'll have terminated him as well. So, it's Bob is not as worried, but McDonald's, he does architecture work principally for McDonald's, and he's expecting to have a very slow year, that they're not going to be looking to do a lot of expansion. So, TTRPGs are nice because even though they are on the surface, we're talking about the prices going up, and I obviously have this ridiculously large collection of books, but to be fair, I've been collecting this over 30 years. The truth of the matter is, this is like one of the cheapest hobbies that you could possibly engage in. I mean, oftentimes, you could spend $100 on a couple books, and you can get months, if not years, of entertainment and fun, and it's a fantastic cost saving. I mean, I think this is the reason why RPGs blew up so much during the pandemic, because people couldn't go anywhere, and it was like, hey, this is a great, cheap, affordable thing to do. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, if you had like 2 kids, if you took you and your husband and your 2 kids and you went to see, I don't know, a movie, you're paying what? Probably $60 for tickets, another $60 for some popcorn and some sodas, some candy. You're paying like $120, $130 to take your family to see one movie. Like, that's crazy, you know? Stephen Glicker today was talking about how the Switch 2, because of the import tariffs, is probably going to be more like $600 or $700. Pathfinder PhD is in chat saying they're going to be $90 a piece. So that means if you want to play the first game on the Switch, it's going to cost you a $600 Switch plus a $90 game. You're talking about $690 just to, you know, to get one game. And how many hours are you going to get out of that game? I mean, some games these days are playable and beatable in under 10 hours. Even 50 or 60 or 100 hours is considered a tremendous value for a game. So from that perspective, TTRPGs are just the best bang for your money ever. Well, right, Pumpkin, but the Switch 2's price announcement was done before they announced the whatever 30 or 40% tariff on Japanese products. So that they're not going to eat that price. So they're going to have to up it by at least a couple $100. 150 odd Australian for 4 tickets and some popcorn. Crazy, right? That's just crazy. I mean, I get that that's what stuff costs, but also it's like, I mean, people are like, D&D 2024, I can't believe it. It's $150 for all 3 core books. Yeah, but if you buy the Monster Manual, the DMG, and the Player's Handbook, like, you know, you could play for a decade with just those 3 books. I promise. I mean, that sounds awesome to me. I wish I didn't live in a condo. If I had my own land, if I had my own place with a little bit of acreage, I would definitely be trying to at least raise some chickens, not necessarily for meat, but for eggs. I mean, I don't think I could bring myself to kill an animal, but it'd be cool to have, I'd have cows if for any other reason, if just for milk and some chicken and some things. I'd love that. Be self-sufficient. Talk to Donnie about doing some solar power. You know, 690 does sound like someone's got to go down. That's true. Pre-orders went up here in New Zealand, $700 for the console plus $140 for Mario Kart, and that's without tariffs. My solution is not having kids. Again, Pumpkin, I'm very uniquely blessed here, because, you know, I have no debt. I have a very affordable house that I bought during not the COVID recession, but I bought it during the first Great Recession. So my payment's very low. I never got married. I don't have kids. So I know people who lost their jobs yesterday who do. And, you know, that's going to be really, really, really tough for them. And so I get that, you know, for me, I'm like, cool, you know, I have a cool little YouTube channel and I have a fun little community, and, you know, I can make a couple $1,000s a month off of the YouTube, you know, maybe call it, you know, 25,000, you know, 30,000 a year or something like that, 25,000. And people are like, well, you can't live off of that. I'm like, you know, I can squeak by, you know, like I could barely survive off of that. I got some savings. I can make it last, you know. I could do some extra woodworking projects. And I mean, I'm not going to be going to Vegas on that. I'm not living large at Gen Con, but I live pretty meager, Lee. But I know there's a lot of people out there who do not have that luxury, for sure. So, Nin, let me be very clear here. I am not a vegan or a vegetarian. I do eat animals, mostly chicken. I really don't tend to eat a lot of cow. But I believe that I don't think there's anything ethically wrong with raising animals, and I certainly believe when I tend to buy free range, grass fed, you know, try to live them as humanely as possible. But I'm just saying, I don't think I personally could kill an animal. If that makes any sense. NightCon will just be the start of a compound. Erica, I love it. NightCon turns into we're already a cult, right? So that's Night Cult. It'll be our Jonestown. Oh, that's sick, George. Listen, it's on the list, you know. Australia, New Zealand are on the list. They've been on the list for a long time. It's a long flight. It's a long flight. It's a long flight. Ooh, the prawn guard. That's pretty good. Prawn guard's pretty good. I've heard the roosters are assholes. I worked in an abattoir. It can mess with your head a bit, but damn, I love steak. That's brutal. But you know, look, I mean, it's the circle of life, you know. Circle of life. I told this story last year. We had a family of robins that planted a nest like right outside of our front door in a bush, and so we watched the eggs and we watched them hatch and the fledglings, and then leaving the nest and living in the bush and the nearby trees. And then one day I came home and saw that like a Hooper's hawk or whatever had just grabbed one of the fledglings straight up and just had it in its talons and was just like, and then just like flew off with it. And I was like, damn. I mean, I guess it's got to feed its young. It's just the way it goes. But it was a tough one. It was tough. I was like, man, it's like my little buddy. Pumpkin confirms that roosters are indeed assholes, but not Rooster Ema. They're very nice. By the way, I just opened. I minimized something, and then the Chat GPT was up, and it's talking about the unholy, right? The crab. The crab messiah that shouldn't be, right? And we've got the crab messiah that should not be. There it goes. We've got the ability to shed and spread. Every time Crustulon sheds his shell, he leaves behind a sentient clone of butter and regret, which seeks its own purpose, often forming strange cults or opening restaurants. I can't help, but like, it's, it gets really like Douglas Adams-y for sure. Butter and Regret. Chandra, Butter and Regret is the name of my autobiography. That's fantastic. Final prophecy of Crustulon. When the clawed ladle is raised beneath the dripping eclipse, Crustulon shall ascend, not to rule, but to baste the world entire, making all things tender, armored, and lightly salted. Hold on a sec. We're going back. Create me a 5e level 25 Crustulon final legendary boss. Absolutely. Strap in, because this is going to be legendary, gross, and glorious. The kind of final boss your players will talk about forever. Level 25 adventurers versus a god-spawned butter crab from the end of the cosmos. Let's go. Crustulon, the ever-based. Final form of the churned heresy. Huge aberration divine. Chaotic delicious. AC 25. Sacred shell and boiling aura. Hit points 777. Speed 40 feet. Swim 60 feet. Burrow only through seafood 10 feet. Stats, 28 strength, 14 dex, 30 con, 22 int, 26 wisdom, 24 charisma. Good saving throws, damage resistance, cold, fire, necrotic, damage immunities, acid, psychic, slashing, condition immunities, charmed, frightened, petrified, prone, has blind sight, passive perception 26, understands all languages, speaks in sizzling whispers, gave it a CR of 30. Legendary traits, Butter of Becoming. When reduced to 0 hit points, Crustulon does not die. Instead, he sheds his shell in a massive explosion of molten divine ghee and reemerges in phase 2. See mythic actions below. With 777 new hit points. All terrain within 60 feet becomes difficult terrain as it is covered in sizzling divine fat. He has a based aura, 30 feet. Anyone within the aura takes 14 fire damage and must succeed at a DC 21 con save or be covered in sacred butter for a minute. Disadvantage on dex saves, vulnerable to slashing and flammable. He has a claw of shell and slop. As a reaction, whenever he's hit, he may grapple and immediately deal 30 bludgeoning and 30 acid as the claw closes like a fryer basket. He has a multi-attack, including his claws and his tongue of slathering. He has his tongue of slathering despair, which does psychic damage, and they must make a wisdom save or become emotionally basted, stunned until their next turn as they contemplate the nature of deliciousness and futility. His divine basting, which recharges on a 5 or 6, is a cone of holy ghee, dealing 88 fire and radiant damage. Targets are coated on a fail. He has up to three legendary actions per turn. He can slickly skitter, moving half his speed without provoking opportunity attacks, make a claw attack with a claw snap, or unravel his shell. Target must make a DC 20 charisma save or be shucked. All magical armor is suppressed until the end of the next round. His mythic actions after phase 2 are to create a Butterbirth clone once a turn, a Butterling, a lesser crustulite with 75 hit points that attacks once per turn and explodes on death for 30 acid, and to drop the Ladle of Truth, which creates the Zone of Glazing Truth. All lies are revealed, all shapeshifters revert to their true forms, and creatures must succeed at a con save or become fully basted, paralyzed for 1 round, as their minds are slathered with divine knowledge. His lair actions, optional, are a Molten Ghee Flood, a Refracted Heat Mirage, and a Pan-Sear Lightning. His final words, "You clawed through form, I melted through meaning. Now together we shall dine upon the bones of gods and baste the multiverse anew." Do you want printable handouts for your players? Do you want a Crustulite familiar companion, if they dare to keep one? Or what about a custom relic forged from Crustulon's discarded shell? This sounds like the end of a really badly translated and really, really horrible JRPG. We shall dine upon the bones of gods and baste the multiverse anew. Omniscient, things definitely got weird. They got weird. I blame the random table. It's a total party based. TPB. Did you guys die to Crustulon? No, we got total party basted. That's excellent. Well, that'll do it. So what can I say? I mean, it's a first look, but obviously I'm familiar with these books. I love it. I love this book. I love the tables. I love rolling random things. And you know what? It's fun by yourself. I think it's more fun with a group of people. When you and your friends can collaborate to come up with stuff, I think it's so much fun. Sometimes it gets silly and crazy, and you can rein it in, or you could just have fun with it and just go with the flow and, see where it takes you. Again, remember, this is D&D, the game where you have giant floating detached hands and portable holes that you can throw on the ground like a freaking Bugs Bunny cartoon and, crazy, weird, strange stuff, I'm going to go find something salty and buttery to eat. I have not eaten dinner myself, so I'm pretty hungry. I did have a chicken sandwich for lunch. I'm actually checking my calories. I have had 1,100 calories today, so I'm short a little bit. And again, it's fun creating worlds. I think it's more fun when you create them together. And so I'm a big fan of that. Shadram says, I bought it on the affiliate link as soon as you said crab people. Excellent. A worthy conversion to the shell father. All things shall be crab. Give not in to the temptation of the buttery mess of she who spreads. Instead, give your heart, your soul to the hardness. That which is sublime and crusty. The shell father. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for us. So we are going to wrap up, and we'll be back next week with potentially a new schedule. I'm going to talk to the patrons. I'm going to see what they want to do. Again, now that I don't have to work, again, my goal here, let me be clear here, is I don't want to like hyper monetize my channel, and talk about stuff I don't care about or stuff I'm not passionate about. But I have more time now. I've got 35 plus hours a week that I was spending at my job that I can now spend doing something else. And that might mean some videos. It might mean maybe a way to bring back some actual plays. I have more time. And, I want to make sure if I could do that to make my community and this channel more fun, cooler, more useful, I'll do that. And if people think that's valuable and they want to throw a couple extra bucks my way or maybe join the Patreon where they wouldn't have before, awesome. And if that gets me to a point where I can maybe kind of support myself with this endeavor, you know, I will. I mean, I would never have quit my job to do this full time because my job was fantastic. It paid very well, had great benefits. There's just no way I was ever going to do that. It was just, you know, not in the cards. But they, you know, they made that decision for me. And so now I could go get another job. But, you know, it's kind of a tough market out there right now, admittedly. You know, maybe there's a way for me to if you will, claw my way back through the channel and through this great community of which you are a part of. So I thank you very much for doing that, and I thank you very much for being here in this very strange, very off the wall, strange thing that we called this live stream. Huge shout outs. We had some incredible tipping tonight. Thank you, everybody. Everyone felt sorry for me, and I appreciate it. We had tips and super chats from a ton of people all over the place. So thank you to Damian Williams, to Shamage, to Pathfinder PhD, to Omniscitoad. Huge shout out to GM Scott, Wojo, Wopelstein, Duncan DT, Ford Prefik, Shadram. Thank you, Technobabble and Unholy Cow, for subscribing. Just thank you to everybody. Thank you to my incredible patrons. That, you know, that's the reason why I'm not having a heart attack right now and probably going back into the ER while my health insurance is still active for a panic attack, is because I have a cool Patreon that has continues to support me and continues to throw me, you know, $3 or $5 or $10 or $25 or $50, $100 a month, because they love the community. They appreciate what we're doing here, and it means a lot to me. And you know, it's enough that it's enough to definitely keep me from freaking out. So I appreciate it. And certainly tonight, things like tonight go a huge way. So thank you, everybody, for being part of the show. And yeah, I think that's all we have. I don't think we have anything else. Right? No, maybe. Yes. All right. Well, that's gonna do it then for me, and we'll be on there. Sunday, we should be doing another Torchbearer episode. This is our Sunday crew, which means that this will get posted to the patrons. We have two Torchbearer campaigns that are run on the Patreon. One is our Saturday crew, one is our Sunday crew. Both get shown to the Patreon. So if you want to watch both Torchbearer crews go into the same dungeon, you have to be a patron. But the Sunday crew does make it eventually to YouTube. So eventually, episode 3 of the Torchbearer Sunday crew is going to be making its way. But we are playing this Sunday, so I'm excited for that. I should be getting together Saturday to maybe play some board games, which should be cool. And tomorrow, Friday, is either Tarkir pre-release or it's we might be getting together at Smith's just to hang out and maybe play some games or do something. I don't know. We're supposed to launch a Fabulous Ultima campaign that's on me that hasn't happened yet because, well, things have been kind of really crazy and chaotic and shitty for me the last 6 weeks since we basically made our Fabulous Ultima characters. But the Fabulous Ultima characters are really cool. And, I mean, I definitely want to I don't want to let that, you know, campaign, if you will, wither on the vine, you know, and not, you know, not be part of the thing. I mean, come on, look at the splash art that I made for this campaign. I mean, that's so cool. So, on the far left, you've got Tim's character. Then next to Tim's character is Smith's character. In the middle is Kaz's character. Next to Kaz's character, second from the end, is Bob, Big Daddy Bob's character. And all the way in the end is our buddy George, a.k.a. Lance Armstrong? I can't remember. Lance Quagmire in chat. So, there he is. You go by so many names, George. So, should be pretty cool. Definitely looking forward to that. No old folks and only beautiful people. Bob's character is anime emo Bob. Gene Parmesan. Isn't your name like Falco or something, George? What is your character's name? George's character is like a avian mutant It's like a mutant strain of like an experience. Oh, that's it. Polo, aka pollo, aka chicken. See, look, you have something like that, and then it's named pollo. How is it pronounced, though, Lance? Is Smith playing a rabbit person? Beowulf, Smith is playing a rabbit person. Smith is playing a Vera, which we just fully stole from Final Fantasy. And Smith's Final Fantasy 14 character is a Vera, and Smith wanted to play a Vera. So Smith is playing a Vera. Do I have a full picture? Yeah, there it is. That is Smith's full character. He is a floralist. Literally a Final Fantasy 19 character. Wow, 19 character. I didn't know that we were up to 19. Okay, you meant 14, yeah. And they say AI can't do hands. I know, I thought this was pretty cool. But yeah, Smith's character is like a floralist, elementalist, something. I don't remember. What is he? For GTT. That's like the lowest roll die. I can Roman numeral honest. I believe you. All right. Oh, this was our character. This was our character creation. So let's see. There's our character. So Smith's character is Alis or Alis. They are a floralist. I don't know if you guys can really see that. Probably not close enough. Zoom that in. They are a floralist, spiritist, elementalist. So like a hypercaster. And that's Smith's character. This is... No, that's not anybody. This is George's character, a.k.a. Polo. We still need a name. He is a mutant entropist sharpshooter. Roderick is Bob's space pirate. He is a wayfarer, weapon master, treasure hunter. Cygnus is Kaz's character, who is an Esper, necromancer, tinkerer. And then Drake Flameheart is Tim's character, is an elementalist, fury, arcanist. So that is the characters. Yeah. So Tim's character over here on the left is the elementalist fury. Smith's character is the spiritist floralist. Kaz's character in the middle is the entropist necromancer psionic. Bob is the wayfarer rogue weapon master, and then the mutant entropist is on the right. So should be a fun campaign if we can ever get it off the ground. But that's on me, but the group is being very sweet and patient. All right. Well, I'm gonna head out. Thanks so much. I hope you guys have a fun time, play some games. Maybe consider joining the Knights of Last Call Discord and get some games in. You know, we have a problem with games on the Knights of Last Call Discord, which is we have too many people running games and not enough people playing games. We actually have a problem where we have too many GMs. So this is a very strange request. but I'm looking for you to join our Patreon. You can join at the $5 or $10 level. Gets you access into the Discord. We have a limited number of $3, but those are usually sold out. But for $5 or $10, you can get in at the lower tiers, and you get access. And we need players. We need people who want to play in some of these, systems and crazy systems. We have a ton of GMs, but we need more people who want to play. Believe it or not, our community is just like overwhelmingly filled with people who want to run games. If you're looking to be selfish and be a player, we have a player deficiency in our community. Pathfinder PhD, thank you so much. Listen, be supportive, be awesome, be nice, check in with me. I appreciate it. And, your patronage is a fantastic gift, and I appreciate it. So thank you. Bunch of power hungry deadbeats that don't want to play. Yes, Boothby is the king of complaining that he can't fill his games. Maybe Boothby, well, you do. Boothby's run a bunch of games. You run a bunch of Pathfinder games, but you've run what, Alien, and didn't you run, what else did you run, Boothby? I know you ran Alien, but what was the other game that you were running at the same time? Pulp Cthulhu. Yeah. Pathfinder PhD says the Patreon is an outrageous value. I like to think so. There we go. Look at that. Oh, yeah. PF2, Alien, Call of Cthulhu, Blades in the Dark, Star Trek, Dune. So Boothby is the G-Pote for a reason, the greatest player of all time. And they're just running games left and right. And it's, and here's the funny thing. Ready? Boothby. Why did you join the Knights of Last Call Patreon? Because Boothby, by the way, runs for his home group. Boothby is the, kind of the forever GM, right? The forever DM. Boothby runs games for his group at home. Boothby, why did you join the Knights of Last Call? So I could actually play Pathfinder 2. And Boothby, how many games of Pathfinder 2 did you actually play? It did not work. But you know what? Boothby is a player in my Torchbearer campaign. We've gone through a couple sessions. He's still getting a feel for it. He doesn't know if he hates it or loves it, and I appreciate the honesty. And that's okay. That's why we play in different games, and we try them out, and we see which games work and which games jive, and which he's not saying he dislikes it. He's just saying he's not sure yet. That's okay. So thank you to everybody for hanging out with me tonight. Again, it's been it's almost like nice that it's all been so bad, because it can only get so bad. Like, I lost my job yesterday, but I'm also just like, that almost seems inconsequential to the fact that I just lost my father 3 weeks ago, on the 13th of March. So, it's kind of just like, everything kind of just, it's almost easier to deal with in a very weird sort of way. So thanks to everybody for helping me through this time, and love each other, support each other. We all need to help in the times to come. Times are tough for me, but I know that times are tough for a lot of people out there. And pain is not comparative. Pain is not competitive. If you're suffering, you're suffering. It doesn't matter, even if it's minor or major. If it's hurting to you, it's hurt is real. So don't deny or be afraid to feel bad. And it's going to be some tough times in the economy to go ahead. And, I don't know who you voted for in the last election, but, regardless of who you did vote for, chances are that you're probably not a billionaire if you're watching this show. And if you're not a billionaire, we're all in kind of for a rough ride over the next 6 to 24 to 48 months. So, I definitely wish you the best and wish you the best of luck. And hopefully gaming is a good way for you to, And if you are a billionaire, what up? Platinus is a billionaire, just down on my luck right now. That's all right, Platinus. You'll pull yourself up by your bootstraps any day now. I believe you. I believe in you. A billionaire is just right around the corner. It's a good thing you voted for those tax breaks for the billionaires, because, when you're going to be one soon. And of course, our particular hobby, well, I mean, you know, it's a global economy and we are extracting ourselves from it. So that is going to be problematic at best. It's going to be expensive for sure. So, all right, folks, that's enough for me, for my soapbox. You know, simply put, you know, be kind, treat people the way you'd like to be treated. We're all in this together. So whether we like it or not, we're all in this together. So thank you for participating with me tonight, and thank you for the weirdness, and I appreciate your thoughts and your craziness, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next time on Knights of Last Call. Good night, everybody. Peace out.
you